Previewing stadiums and previewing leagues, we look ahead on this week's episode of the IndyBar Report podcast. Back again, 269 episode number. This is a 69 type episode because there's a lot of things coming together.
Nice.
So funny.
Dumbest show. Anyway.
Oh, I'm sure there's dumbers out there.
Yeah, no, actually, it's probably somewhere in my podcast lineup. But yeah, man, how's it going, bud?
No, it's going fine. I know that one day we're going to get to be able to watch baseball without paying for it, which is nice.
I mean, for one league, sure.
Imagine if we just got right into the show like that. First time ever, under 3 minutes, right in.
I mean, we could. I don't really think our banner is anything special, but I mean, I don't know what feedback kind of you're seeing, you know?
You know, I enjoy our little talks, but you know, okay, fine.
What was the hour and a half before this?
That was me showing off a puppy.
Fair. Worth it.
I think it was a worthwhile detour.
Nah, I'm not going to complain. You're right.
So you want to talk about other good boys, such as the American Association?
Yes, they were such good boys this week.
Right in the middle of me ranting about Flo several times over, they step up to the plate and they hit a home run because AA Baseball TV is getting a little bit of a facelift. The stock standard AA Baseball TV will now be free of charge. You can watch every game live for the wholesome price of no dollars, no cents. Now, should you want to watch replays of the game, archive games, aka past games, or have access to the additional content, mainly their pretty much the whip around show, the weekend review show, and then some of the documentaries, that you're still going to have to pay the, I believe, $15 or so a month for. But even still, it's still about half the cost of Flow a month. So that's a huge win there. And quite honestly, this is the exact kind of move that you do to grow your league. And once again, it does seem like the American Association recognizes that and takes a step to grow the league as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of refreshing to see a league that seems like they have their wits about them on this sort of thing and realizes that, hey, when people watch your games, maybe it's actually, good for the league as opposed to waiting. And the only people who will watch your games are people who already watch your games. And you're also going to charge them extra for it and leave them with a bad taste in their mouth. So, maybe, just maybe, you want to grow the product. You want to grow the market base for that and really get some new customers to it. Invite some people in. Make it easy.
You mean to tell me that you shouldn't be price gouging the friends and family of players to try and squeeze a couple extra bucks?
Sure, it'd be nice if you didn't.
And you mean to tell me that this would reflect positively on a league that wouldn't be doing that in exchange for a possibly large, but also possibly okay size check?
Look, I will not stand here and defend the choices of the Atlantic League or the Frontier League or the Pioneer League.
I was going to say,
however,
yeah,
I have no follow-up.
That's it. I want to know when is the Pecos League streaming site coming?
Dude, I need it. I need to see, why? Because it is hard as hell to watch a Pecos League game. I watch very few, even for someone of relatively few for my standard. I mean, an exponentially large amount compared to the normal individual, even a baseball fan. But rolling it back to of people who cover indie ball, I do watch relatively few. And it's because it's very difficult to watch, which is frustrating to know. And it should be free on YouTube. What are we doing here? We're trying to get guys signed. What is happening? Okay. But I can just imagine the joy I would feel. Let me paint that picture. I'm on my couch. I'm wearing pants, neither here nor there. In that I am neither wearing pants here right now, nor there on my couch. And I've watched my Atlantic League games, my East Coast games. I watched my Frontier League games. They fade across to the West. My American Association games, in about an hour or so behind. And then I watched my Pioneer League games sort of end. That weird, the Grand Junction game that ends 18-16 ends. And I'm like, that's it.
Low
like
scoring.
that's it, man. It was like 7 hours of baseball, essentially. It's 3 a.m. Time for me to wake up in about 2 hours. What am I to do? And then I see one shining beacon of light, and it's the Pecos League with 3 games still going on that haven't hit some sort of weird curfew out in California. And I can then just inject that straight into my veins. And yeah, dude, like that's the goal for me, really. I would talk about something I would pay $30 a month for. It's just Pecos streaming, I feel like, at this point. But I guess that's not true because I literally have the opportunity. I think they pay to watch games like $1 a game or something. I'm still not doing that. Anybody who's like, oh, it's just $1 a game. You got to remember, we were willing to like basically destroy our computers with LimeWire to not get a song for $1. So like, let's not sleep on how much Americans don't like spending $1 when the other option is not spending $1. So yeah, good times.
How about those Canadian Pecos League fans? What about that fine individual from Gilbert Plains, Manitoba, that just wants to sit back and watch the nice Austin Weirdos Tucson Saguaros game?
I don't know the conversion rate to loonies and toonies, but hey, man, that does feel pretty Pecos League. Hoping to get out there, though. I really am. I'm hoping. I'm trying my best to figure out the Trinidad trip. I got somebody in my DMs from Trinidad. It was pretty cool to reach out. So I'm trying to see if I can connect that. So yeah, I joke about the Pecos League, but I've talked about before. I do think the Pecos League is a net positive for any ball, and I continue to for baseball. And I'm doing my best. I'm trying to get out there.
I really wish my sunglasses were nearby because it would make my next joke so much better. So what you're saying is, when it comes to this Trinidad trip, you're waiting to pull the trigger.
Nice. Love that from you. And also say to anybody from Trinidad otherwise, because I've gotten a few times, come out to our park. Yo, dude, like I don't have an East Coast bias, right?
I do.
My bank account does. So I don't know, man. You know,
you should fly him out there.
Things out here. I mean, I can't take a boat. I check that. Have you seen the state of Amtrak lately? I would rather lay in front of it. Not that Amtrak's it would hit me.
Good if you're going up and down the East Coast. Come on now.
Good is a loose term. You can keep that to yourself.
I never had a problem with Amtrak.
They'll get you there eventually, and maybe also don't forget that crash that happened, which was, I mean, not the only one. Send me down the rabbit hole on Jersey train crash history. Don't do that to me. Yeah. Anyway, where were we? We got a lot to talk about that.
Yes, we do. So, final thoughts on this American Association streaming business. I like the model. I think it's a positive. All in all, it's nice to see that. Likewise, what the hell are you? Are you at DJ's in Belmar? What's the fist pump?
Dude, I love free baseball, baby. That's why I'm so against extra inning rules. Give me 16 innings. This is what I want.
I feel like we should have a guy at every ballpark, just going on this tangent for a second. There should be one guy in every ballpark that does that 9-inning, $9 challenge all the time. But when it goes to extras, he has to eat 10 dogs in the 10th inning, 11 in the 11th, 12th in the 12th. And we slowly see a man descend into madness. And the game either ends when the guy is unable to finish the hot dogs, dies of consumption, or someone scores a run and someone doesn't.
Screaming, he's crying, he's vomiting. I mean, it is a
calling out
of bodily fluids.
He's crying out for his family, wanting to record his last will and testament. The nitrate's building up.
Players to end this or end him.
He's fallen to his knees in the Nathan's factory parking lot.
And by the way, they're not making him fresh dogs. These are leftovers.
I'm willing to compromise and allow them to be under the heat lamp still, so you get the buns that are both soggy but hard. But
these have to be pocket beers or stolen sweet beers.
Can it be
true
just like
indie ball pastime? Stolen sweet beers.
But we allow them to drink the beer that falls in the trough underneath where they fill up the beer.
Can I tell one story before we move on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We covered the streaming. Screw Flow. Good job, American Association.
Flow sucks. If you have anything to talk about with it, talk to me about it. Next time to get in your DMs. So if you talk about things where I should have known, I am in Lexington specifically to negotiate my offer to come to Lexington, and we meet. I meet with the owner of the team, whose name I'm not in the mood to talk about today. And we talk over in the boardroom, talk about it. We're sort of standing out on, like, the boardroom opens up to the ballpark, so you're like standing outside the ballpark, just like chatting, looking out at it, whatever. Kind of a nice day. Rain the night before, mid-season, whatever, late season, call it. And like, all right. And we start walking, and we walk down a couple suites, and then we like pop into one of the suites. And like, as we're talking, we realize like someone had been sleeping there, like, for sure. And like, it wasn't like staff. Like, that happens all the time. Like, I used to sleep in Wheaton a good bit because I lived like an hour plus away. If you had a quick turnaround day to night, especially they would occasionally do like a Saturday night fireworks into a Sunday day game. It's like, all right, with the traffic, I ain't getting out here till midnight, and I got to be back here at 8 a.m. tomorrow, and I'm an hour away. So I'm home at 1 a.m. I got to leave again at 7 a.m. Like, what are we doing here? So our locker room, showered that up, and then did there. But yeah, man, like it was not that. That was not the vibe. Decidedly, I was like,
it was just some squatter.
Oh, I think someone was. I was like, I don't know, dude. I think you got an encampment starting here, my guy. Because like, just the amount of like, because if you're a staff member sleeping there, like, you are like pretty like you like, don't mess anything up, whatever. Like, you keep everything nice and neat. Obviously, don't ruin the privilege. It was like, there was like stuff everywhere. There was like food had been picked through. I was like, oh, okay. Probably could have known at the time. How could I have known? Well, maybe.
So I think you got a squad here. No, that's just the last social media guy, you know.
Nah, he'll be fine. He'll get back on his feet. Not here though.
I mean, like, don't worry. I'll hire him again. I'll have him do security for like a music concert or something.
Jesus Christ! All right, where were we? What do we got here? We got. Speaking of getting some security, we got. I think Oakland Ballers talk.
Yes, we do. We do have some Oakland Ballers talk here. The city approved their renovation plan, so they're finally able to get that going. They released some new renderings as well. Now, by finally get it going, I mean like in full swing here. Now, granted, by the time you listen to this, they'll have either exactly a month or less than a month till opening day, so they'll have to work quickly. But supposedly, the streets and sidewalks around the ballpark are going to be repaved. They'll have 4,000 seating capacity, ballpark concessions with additional food trucks. There'll be a West Oakland BART shuttle to the field an hour before and a half hour after games with free bike and scooter valets, 3 paid lots with 1,000 spaces combined, and 1 rideshare lot as well. Lighting irrigation system repairs have already occurred, as well as new sod. And if you're looking to buy Ballers tickets, they have paused sales until Monday, the 6th, for the implementation of a new ticketing system that will reduce or get rid of entirely the fee for purchasing tickets. So you'll either pay $30, $25, or $15 straight up per piece. So any noticeable thoughts from the renderings and or from the announcement as a whole? I
mean, we've said this a few times. It feels like 23 Jackals.
Yeah.
In that, like, even down to there's going to be all this parking. And it's like, okay, where? Like, literally, I'm looking at the renderings. I'm looking at the map. I'm looking at the satellite image. And maybe, let me see. Hold on, maybe. I could be just dumber than you'd think. Maybe, yeah, kind of. There might be a spot, but that's like, that belongs to a business. So I don't know what the deal is there. I mean, it's a lot of like industrial park stuff. I mean, there are condos right there. I've talked about that, but that's not necessarily great. There is a parking lot. Hold on. There's a parking lot over back to the left, like behind where home plate is. So maybe that. I don't know. They're really aggressively pushing biking for.
Yeah.
When I think bikeable cities, I don't think Oakland, but I could be way off. I don't know.
I mean, they're also having valets, so I mean, that's important.
Go get my valet.
Here's my ticket. Go get my bike. Hit the little bell as you drive off. Please, sir. It's a 5-speed.
You take good care of
it. Yeah. Don't you dare scratch my Oakland Ballers cards that are in the spokes.
We are taking a joking tone at this. I mean, it is good to get more detail. It is genuinely exhaustion with the story. I mean, I will speak to this piece personally as I've looked more and more into the situation, the ownership, the motivations, the hints at what the motivations are versus what it is spoken to be. I am a little tired, and I have a bad feeling, and it's at one of the most frustrating points. I think it's one that you've found while working through indie ball stuff in general, as well, which is something isn't right. We have bits and pieces of it, but no one who will speak to it publicly enough where they want to put a name on it, and then we can say it with like some backing where it doesn't just seem like, if somebody goes prove it and we're like, well, someone told me, but I can't tell you who. That's dumb. So that can't be, thrown out there. But we keep getting these bits and pieces like that from all directions, and we're getting a pretty clear picture of it, but we can't fully paint the picture for anybody, but we have a pretty good understanding of the picture. And that's why, because I've talked to some people who are like, dude, you're real hard on them. And I'm like, I know, but like, I can't, it's frustrating because I can't fully, I can articulate it off record, but I have trouble on record fully expressing the level of this is concerning that we're dealing with here.
It's because of how it came together so quickly in it, and the manner of, you're always skeptical of someone that's promising seemingly the moon. And then when you start to see like the pieces come together, it starts to be like, that's not exactly what you were telling me. But like, it's better than it could have been. It's just, when you say you're going to, how to put it, when you're promising 100 and you're promising 100 in like 2 days, and then 2 days comes and you're at, say, 70, it's still somewhat impressive, but it's also not the 100. And you're thinking on day one, like, I'm not sure we're going to see this, right? And like, I know for me, at least looking at these renderings, two things immediately come to mind. One, with the playground that's like kind of, well, it's definitely in home run territory. It kind of gives me some backyard baseball vibes. And secondly, I look at the way the stanchions are done up and the way this bathroom area is done up, and I immediately think like, oh, this is set up like a golf tournament where you have like these portable stanchions that you put in, and then you got like, bathroom alley, and just kind of feels, I hate to say unprofessional because it is professional baseball, but man, it just really feels like, it feels like that spice rack the Homer built in The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Yeah. And I mean, furthering where I come from on this is like, they posted a thing today about like the wall, and hey, I do like they're doing natural grass. Is it because it's cheaper than artificial turf? Well, obvious. But I think, but then what both of us caught, was the chain link fence outfield wall. And I was like, okay, I don't know, feels like a choice. And you went ahead, to your credit, and you said it, and they commented back like, oh, well, that's temporary. It's going to be, they're going to have nets. I was like, that doesn't answer the question. Now I have more. Now I have more questions about this, because nets go on top of a wall. A chain link fence would require, if being replaced, a wall, which is not what you're saying is happening. And they never responded to that, I don't think. And I think it's, which is fine. That's not a big deal. That's nitpicky, and I get that.
Yeah,
but
but
it's but the bigger thing is the Pioneer League. Okay, all right, and then I'm leaving it, because I have a positive I want to end on here. So I'm gonna say my thing, give it back to you, and then I'm gonna end on positive because I'm gonna be Captain Positivity. Damn it, I'm gonna be Captain Positivity here. Damn it,
I was trying to be positive this week.
I'm angry road trip dad. So
we're only on the drive down. I shouldn't be this annoyed.
I'm gonna turn this indie league around. For me, it's the Pioneer League is in a precarious spot. And I don't mean that in like a bad way. They are operating out of a very difficult circumstance, which is basically everyone got broken up with, first of all. Yeah. So they are all at the same time taking this jump, which I think does help that, you're not the lone team jumping into the ocean, but also you have a little bit of a lack of guidance and you're out on your own and the distances are far. The travel expenses are a pain. You are at of the major 4 leagues, you have positioned yourself through roster restrictions and through just the pecking order as the one who gets sort of the lowest tier entry level guys, which is fine. That's not a talent league thing, but there's heavy competition for those guys. You're dealing with, the guys who are looking to just not play anymore. You're looking for guys who, have just other options, other indie leagues, or they could just do a lot. Don't get me started on the levels of that. That's not relevant, but you were already really, and you're in small population bases a lot of the time, and they're making it work for the most part. They've had some like tough rebrands that, like we've talked about, NOCO last year was kind of weird, not the rebrand, but how their ballpark was new. But then they did a good job. Really, like we thought that was going to be an issue the whole year. Nope, wasn't. Never really came back up. Like kind of got okay. And they have a way about doing that, and they embrace who they are, and they lean into their local towns, and they seem to do well. And then to just like boop and reach all the way out to Oakland for what I suspect is not going to be a up to standard result at great expense and at great inconvenience with your name all over it. Just and to watch Oakland be like cool and then just doing whatever Oakland does, seemingly unguided or without caring about guidance, is making me tired. And that's why every time we talk about this, I get more frustrated. And I'm really sorry about that for the listeners. You've been hearing a lot of the same stuff. You're being great, and I appreciate that about you. But hey, and I cannot wait until I'm wrong. I want to be wrong so badly for so many reasons. Oh, but I don't trust either owner. And that's a problem, right? Okay. Back to you before I go Captain Positive.
It does feel a little haphazard, like the Pioneer League saw an opportunity to get a big market that had a lot of media attention on it and grow brand awareness and leaked at that without really looking to see where they were going to land. I'll grant you that. I do think on some level it would have worked better if either it was summer college, which I understand defeats the purpose of it, and or had it just been like a separate West Coast league. I think that would have worked better because it's more in line culturally. It's more in line geographically with that than, say, the Pioneer League. Because I gotta imagine if you're not in either the Oakland or YOLO front office, you gotta start getting tired of this sooner than later, right? Because this is a major inconvenience. And there is attention being drawn to it. Probably more than your team is. And I'm sure there's a lot of organizations that go, hey, we've been around for how long? We've done everything right. We've checked all the boxes. We've put in the hard work. And because we're in Montana, because we're in Utah, because we're in Colorado, we're not going to get the same attention as this new like pop-up shop team. So I could definitely understand some frustration or resentment in other front offices. I don't know how much of it is really there. Maybe it's just a figment of my imagination, but I do understand if there's some frustration coming in from other sides here, and I do wonder if there is that kind of frustration or fatigue around this team, how long it lasts, if the rest of the league's like, look, they either got to get together or get gone. So I do wonder on some level with that. But although I will say I am hesitant. I mean, I've already been hard on. I would say I'm hesitant to go all in on it, but it does feel like I already have. But I am a little hesitant to really like just write them off for dead without seeing how it plays out. I think I need to see until at least say August or September before I can really like say for certain on it. Just because like a lot can change. But God, you're asking the world to be ready for a June 4 opening day.
And here's the thing also is I'm very open to the possibility that this whole year goes very well. I think it goes, I don't think operationally it goes well. I think I'm open to the possibility that it goes well from a fan perspective, an attendance perspective, and possibly even in some facets a monetary perspective. Though I think they're spending. It has to be absurd. Which whatever, that's fine. But I think they could sell out every game this year, and I would still remain unconvinced. And that's part of my issue in here is that I would still say yes, but what about next year when the heat of the anger with the A's is gone? Does it maintain it? Does it remain a good enough product at the price point it's at, which is very high compared to other indie ball games, that people will still have the same enthusiasm when you're not also, by doing it, giving the middle finger to the ownership of the Oakland A's?
True.
That's my hesitation.
And I honestly, like, I respect the renderings coming up more. At least I can see what their vision, their plan here is. But a lot of it, I'm still a little hazy on, right? And I have a little bit of concern about, like, in 2 years, 3 years, like you said, when the, like, stick it to the man thing's gone, do you really want to sit on a portable bleacher to watch this? Like, that's a question there. And I'm still confused how you can have this park open to the public on a non-game day and expect everything to remain in good condition.
I mean, you need somebody basically watching it at all times.
Yeah.
I think. Now, when it comes to
before you go to there, did it mention in the release? Because I know it's in security. Did it mention security there for non-game days or just during game time?
Nope, just mentioned in the one spot.
Okay, so it never mentioned like, oh, okay, we'll have someone there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's managed crowd control and ensure enjoyable experience for attendees. So that does imply that it's just for while there's events going on.
Yeah, agreed. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can I be positive?
Yeah, go for it. Why not?
So let's get positive here. My positive take is I really like the High Wheelers brand. I really like what they have going, and I think they'd be a super viable franchise. And I'm worried that they're going to get written off as just like the attachment that just comes along with Oakland, and when Oakland's done, they get packed away. Because I think it's a good vibe. The brand is good. I think they have some good people making some calls over there. I'm a little unclear about their front office dynamic, but we're sketchy on that because who knows, they're going off ownership, and the shared ownership thing is weird semantics, but the ballpark is fantastic. 3,500 seater, beautiful. In a good spot, parking, all the convenience. I think, that's not a long-term solution, but there could be some short-term solutions. There are fairly local options that are, I think either Pecos or formerly Summerball. I forget the full list. I had a short list that I made a couple weeks back that would be viable. And I'm like, yo, if I'm the league, I'm seeing what I can do to reinforce that infrastructure there, because I think that could be something. And look, I don't know the behind the scenes on it. I don't know the logistics there. I don't know. So it could be nonsense. If you're from the Pioneer League and you listen to this, you're like, that's not how that works, dude. But from where I sit, I'm like, dude, I don't know. It kind of is a vibe. Also, YOLO High Wheelers, the more I think on it, is one of the best indie ball names out there right now. At first I laughed. I was like, oh, come on now. But I think I was negative on it. But like the more I look, I'm like, yo, and the hats coming out look good. I was like, wait a minute. I never connected with the Ballers branding, to be fair. That's why my energy isn't as high for that. It's not necessarily anti it. I get it. It
just doesn't feel as,
I'm not as energetic about it. It's not as exciting, but I think the whole picture there, it's pretty. I just think we should be. I hope they don't get written off, man. For their sake, I hope they get a fair shot here, no matter what happens in Oakland.
Ooh, High Wheelers merch is launching tomorrow on Friday.
Ooh, baby, I might be getting some of that.
Here's the thing. I agree 100% with it. Although I did think you were leading off with like a positivity thing for Oakland, not YOLO. But hey, we'll roll with it anyway.
That was never gonna happen.
Yeah, but
I am out with it. I'll put myself on the limb. I'm on the plank, and I'll cut behind me if it ends up being this thing is fantastic. But I'm telling you, even if it's a great first year, I'm still gonna stand here and say, okay.
I'll agree with you on YOLO. I will say that I do like the brand. And the more and more I see of these hats, like I could see myself rocking one of these hats.
Oh, I will be rocking one of these hats. That's for sure.
Definitely a positive here. They tweeted out a thing that UC Davis, where they play, has a Labrador that retrieves bats. So I'm really hoping the dog is involved in this.
Buddy,
I did not watch the
I hope
video.
it's on one of the bikes.
I'll make some calls with a dog.
He'll figure it out. Dogs are adaptable.
Yeah, but dogs overall, I will say I do like
the dolphins of four-legged creatures.
But yeah, I will agree. I do think the YOLO brand is a lot better. I think their unis, at least the tops, look pretty solid, although they do give me kind of a German national team look to them. Similar
it does feel that way. Keep them away from other European nations. We'll be just fine.
So I will say that. But overall, I do like the brand a lot. They seem, and I don't mean this insulting, and that's why I'm using this exact term, but they seem kind of French vanilla, right? They're not just regular vanilla that's plain and old and boring. They're French vanilla. They have a little extra kick to it, a little specialty, where they just don't really stand out. But the more you look at them, the more you're like, this is a solid, legitimate team, and I feel good about it. And I have felt good about YOLO for some time. I trust the pieces in place enough. So that alone gets me over the line. And I think part of why I like with the brand better is it relates to the area that it's from more than Oakland does, where it more relates to the ownership of it.
Right, which is okay. I was gonna say not okay.
Yeah.
Bad take exposed immediately. I was gonna say, which is a bad idea. However, we just saw the counterclocks, which was entirely Lexington based, and everyone was like, we'll burn the stadium down if you don't make it the Legends again. And the Legends didn't even win the fan vote when it was originally up for it, because it was named after the Legends with the logo of the mustache. I think the owner liked the Legends name, and his mustache was literally the logo. So maybe after all of this, I'm an idiot. And I'm open to that possibility because I live with myself every day, and I suspect you might be onto something.
We could both be right here. We could say that naming a team after the local area is more positive, and locals will rally around a team that becomes their own and make that thing that was about the owners themselves. And you can be right in the fact that you're still an idiot.
I think someone's right about something.
I like how you're putting on a jacket during all of this.
Buddy, I thought my headphones were going to fit over this, and it's been a bad situation. Oh, I got a hat on. Did you
zip down the thing?
I got a hat on, too, and that's going to complicate some things. It's like birth a little bit right now, but we got through. You better not add that out.
I'm leaving this whole section in of you putting on a pullover. Okay, you did, in fact, zip the thing down all the way.
Oh, yeah, I'm just dumb.
Okay, I was just going to make sure that, because if you only zipped it down like half the way, I was going to have something to say about that.
If people get nothing else from the beginning of this podcast, which has gone far too long, it's about half a podcast length, if we're being honest, it's that I'm an idiot. That's fine. I'm very comfortable with this.
Okay, let's talk about the Atlantic League. I think we've talked enough about California Pioneers. So,
yeah.
Because we have a week's worth of play now in the Atlantic League, and we probably should spend a little bit of time discussing it. I would say the North is just chaos at the moment. And I would say High Point's probably the class of the South, although they have had a little bit of rough sledding over the last couple of days.
I gotta say, yeah.
That being said, Ben Aklinsky is just killing the game.
Nasty. It's gross.
Yeah.
He can't keep getting away with it.
My player of the year pick just keeps looking better and better.
He's so good, dude. I mean, look, bad day today. Bad day today. Still got a hit. His team got 2 hits. He got one of them. And it's obvious.
Where'd you find that stat?
It was a double, dude. Point streak.
I know you love point streak.
I want to. Can't make threats on a podcast these days. Not the good old days. When things were the Wild West, when men were men.
What about the sheep? Were the sheep scared?
The sheep are so not scared. The sheep are running point streak. The sheep have learned a code. Barely. There's a ba in there somewhere. I figured it out. This ain't my podcast.
And it looks like the count's always off on point streak. What's up with that? I don't know. The people running it love ball 4.
Something about counting sheep. I don't know. There's something there too. You know what they say about counting sheep? I don't know. Whatever. Point is, yeah.
Point is, there was no earned runs in this game.
Oh my god! All right, what do we have going on here? We had. I'll just give you a quick recap. We'll go more in depth on normal episodes, I'm sure, but we got a whole 16-team preview to drop right now. So,
which I'm sure will be quick. Staten Island, have yourself a day. My God, 14 runs. They've kind of come up.
They were not happy. They were losing that game too, if I recall.
No, they were up 6-0.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you said Long Island. So Staten Island just whooped up on Long Island for 3 straight. How about that, dude?
Don't look them, but first the Fairy Hawks have a better record.
Dude, yeah, we said they were going to be good, man. Look, it's early, but like popping Wei and Chen for 6 runs in 4 innings, tough. Southern Walker guy, by the way, so on brand. But Mike Shawaryn, second good outing. I mean, like, it's a solid roster, man.
I told you. I think they're a contender for a playoff spot.
I think you're right. They were last year, too. I said it before. Don't sleep on it.
Yeah, I think this team may be cooking.
Nate Scantlin, 4 for 5.
Sandoval with those 12 Ks through 7 games. I love it.
Dude, Sandoval. Do we have a conversation? Okay. How about we'll do a quick. All right. Hold on. Yeah. Pause. Hold the thought. For those of you looking for the catch up on the Atlantic League real quick. This thing.
What about the mustard?
Listen. Do I have to hit you in front of everybody?
Is this what we're doing? One long pole.
All right. So I'm trying to go back here. It's fine. Yeah, we got it. So essentially, what do we have here? York, they ended up splitting that series with Hagerstown after the no-hitter. It's not a bad result from them. Gastonia, did they take 3 or 4? I'm already drawing a blank on that.
Gastonia. No, I'm looking at the Fairy Hawks team page.
I got it. Gastonia. Yeah, Gastonia took 3 or 4 to open up that. But then they went ahead. York took 2 out of 3. They did a funky little series because Gastonia's old ownership. Y'all remember them. Booked a bunch of stupid graduations, and then so they had to play a Monday game 1 and then a doubleheader Wednesday, and then I think have back-to-back days off, which is a choice.
Yeah. I was wondering why they had a doubleheader that early in the season, but thank you.
Hey, if you are with a team and have a weird doubleheader scheduled, no, I'm going to be texting you. And if I don't, it's going to text to somebody else because I need to know. I love it. It's always something stupid.
Yeah, I was like, an April doubleheader. What's this,
dude? And then. The Stormers, they got popped for 3 in a row to open their series against Long Island, and then 1-1 just ran 3 off against Hagerstown. Hagerstown was in a bad situation because they got the no-hitter, the high from that. That's cool, but they've now lost 5 out of 6. Not great, but because think about it, road trips in any ball are tough already. It's a 7-game road trip, which is a game longer than usual, and you are literally a new franchise. Like, you have no backup, you have nothing rolling with you. You have very little. I mean, Mace is connected, but he can only do so much, I think, to float a team. They're not coming in with a full deck to that last couple games, and it showed. They got absolutely smacked today by Lancaster, like 12-2, I think.
Yeah.
Frankly, it was not at that close even. It was rough.
Imagine doubting Lancaster's batting or pitching at some point so far.
I will say this. I think Lancaster, I get it now. I see projections were never going to pick up what Lancaster seems to be doing here, but Lancaster seems to have assembled a lineup of dudes. If you don't know Lancaster's ballpark well, it is short in right field, but right field kind of cuts straight across, which creates this really big, long sort of right center to center field angle, which gets real deep. And then center and left center is real deep. And then it stays deep into left. Like it is one of the biggest left and center fields out there. And they just, Ross Peoples just signed like a bunch of dudes who just drive the ball in the left and center. And it is chaos. I mean, the dudes are logging miles out there playing outfield against them. And I'm starting to get it now. So I see that. That's why projections were like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, but no, it makes sense now. That would be a problem. So Lancaster might sneak up pretty quick here. York looks a lot better. York took 2 out of 3 against Gastonia, as I said. Staten Island sweeping Long Island's crazy. Long Island's now dropped 4 in a row after that hot start, so keep an eye on that. But they tend to be ebb and flow like that. Feel is questionable with them day to day. But this is 7 games in. This is the dumbest, most unfair thing I'm going to say in a while, but this does feel like a Wally Backman team, despite the fact it's Lou Ford managing, like ripping 3 in a row on Lancaster and then just getting punked for 4 straight, like randomly to start a year is kind of familiar to what we see with them. High Point, they welcome Charleston in after High Point swept Lexington because that happens. And then Charleston gets worked in game 1 and then they score a bunch of runs, win 12-6, I think, game 2, and then just won 2-0 in game 3. So bang, take a series on that, and they're tied at the top of the standings. Crazy. Southern Maryland and Lexington play each other. Lexington takes 2 out of 3. Southern Maryland is worse than I thought. That is my takeaway from that. Now, to my question for you before we move on.
Yes.
Your team insert sign former MLB guy here. Insert whatever name you want. Call him Pablo Sandoval. How long do you let it go? I was just watching a whole thing on NPB in Japan and how, like, especially because there's a limit to how many Americans you can have. If you're an American and you don't hit, they're like, if you don't actually show up and earn this thing, they'll be like, they're not happy about it.
Get ready to learn English, buddy.
Yeah, right. They're sending you back and you're flying frontier, bud. So how long do you let a guy go? If he's dropping an
depends a lot on which team it is, to be quite honest with you. If you're Long Island, you can throw him to the curb because you could probably get another one in. If you're, I don't want to talk shit about any team in particular, but let's just say, I don't know. What's a team in the middle of nowhere? Southern Maryland,
To be fair, Southern Maryland signs like no major leaguers, so it's not like they're aware of it. I'm sure. I mean,
like
whether it's a choice or not.
Yeah, if you're someone like that, then it's like you really don't get a lot, so you kind of got to give them more rope. I mean, who's the last notable former major leaguer? Latos. Yeah. So I mean, now Latos' case, he pitched very well, so I mean that wasn't a problem.
Right.
So. It's a little bit different. Sandoval is an interesting case, right? Because the team is winning without him. You just swept Long Island. Probably isn't an exaggeration to say the biggest series win so far in the team's now, I guess, 2+ year history.
I think it might be.
Because it feels like a turning point kind of win.
This isn't the same team. Losing 3 out of 4 to open against Charleston felt like, I gave them that Charleston's a very good team and a tough matchup for them, but it did feel like this could be familiar. And then, especially the way the bullpen was exposed, having Sandoval pitch 2 innings, the one game, I was like, oh God. But this felt like it sent a message, man. Yeah.
It feels like Michael Phelps going to be walking down saying, who's ready to learn the Frontier League?
It's nice. It's a good touch.
But and I mean, like in Staten Island, I was about to go on a 9-game homestand before going down to Hagerstown. So but you only have 6 in Hagerstown, then you're right back to the Staten Island for the 3-piece, which is kind of weird. I think they would have done New York and then just made a real long homestand, but whatever.
You got to let them play at home because you've been selling the tickets, frankly.
Yeah, fair. But I I feel like you got to give to at least the end of May. I know it's an awful lot of rope to give a guy here, but it's not just like a major leaguer, right? You know, it's not like a guy that got a cup of coffee, and I'm not going to disrespect Chris Valimut or Valimont. That's how it is, because he just got picked up by Arizona. So obviously it's something else here, but he also only has 2/3 of an inning pitched in the majors. So he's a major leaguer. No one can take that from him, but he's also not like a long
Struck
time
out a major
veteran.
leaguer, baby.
Yeah. He's not a veteran major leaguer. Sandoval's a World Series champion, and for a period of time was one of the best players at his position in Major League Baseball, which made him one of the best third basemen at the time in baseball. Now, granted, we are, at least a decade removed from that. And so from that alone, I feel like that buys him an extra week or two.
And there's an adjustment, to be fair, as well.
Yeah.
I think that's something that needs to be considered. Like, he's basically only played Mexican League and Major League over the past, X number of years. And that's
still driving in runs. Like,
it's true. He is.
Yeah.
He's playing a role.
Yeah, exactly.
And he pitched 2 good innings, frankly.
Maybe he's actually a pitcher.
New career move. What's it? Rick Ankiel this thing.
Yeah. I mean, granted, he's batting below my weight, so that's not good. But I mean, the thing is, I guess what I come back to is, as shitty as it may be to say, he, as of right now, is not a critical piece to this lineup, and it's also not affecting them.
They're winning games and they're hitting around him. If this is something where he's killing rallies, if this is something where they're losing and he's the rally killer, or if this is something where no one's hitting, though if no one's hitting, they're probably moving pieces that aren't him. So it's also a tough one. But yeah, I see where you're going.
Yeah. Which, just an aside here, Nate Scantlin has been very good so far.
Yes.
I'm really digging him. He was kind of like one of my sleeper picks going into the year. I think I talked about him a bit in the preview. He's really rewarding my confidence in him. I really am thinking he's going to have a good year. Now, granted, it's a week in, so I mean, we still have several dozen weeks left, but still, I'm really like what I'm seeing from him. But to put a bow on Sandoval, I give him to the end of the month to really make a difference here. I think you got to make a decision.
Yeah, especially because he's costing. He is taking up a chunk of salary cap.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean that was not cheap, I can assure you. Though there is some of the guys with more money, yeah, you think you gotta pay them, but actually some of them you don't, because they're not in it for the money necessarily. They'll take like a $1,600 a month type of thing. So that's something to keep in mind in that situation. Anyway, I'm done. That was a lot of lengthy talk, dude. We have so much still to get through. We're gonna churn and burn this, Maddie. I will say, before we really fully jump into Frontier, last week I was feeling pretty ready for that podcast because I had already done my preview episode and then had to scrap it because of my microphone issue. For those of you not here for the last episode who don't remember, I had time mentioned, I think, that my wife was pretty sick, and I was dealing with that, and that kind of threw me off a little bit, but I did have a lot of information ready to rock. I then got sick. So now I'm going to do a bit of the opposite, because when I did my episode finally previewing, I said, I'm not going to go too in depth. I'm going to say, go check out Indie Ball Report. Now this one, I'm going to be a little snake. I'm going to go, if I sound like I don't have a lot to say, I'll be dropping my Frontier League preview next week, and come check that out on my platforms. To be clear, again, for just setting expectations, I have basically team general projections, like I would call it a power ranking of where everyone stands, and like some player notes, and that's about where I'm at on the Frontier League. So sorry, I'm not more prepared for this. I'd say I'd be more prepared for the American Association, but I mean, it's only a week from now, and I don't know.
Don't worry, everybody. When Ryan comes here to talk about the Pioneer League, he'll have in-depth player profiles for every single player, especially the first-year pros, because they'll have.
I might. You don't know me. Like, I might. I
expect you to. I want you to have in-depth profiles for the guy that just played 3 seasons at Alameda County College, and will somehow wind up starting for the Ballers at third base this year.
Bro, that's not the weirdest thing happening. Why was that even? Feel like you were trying to dunk on the bowlers with that one.
I wasn't.
Only
I
because
think
the
a local
shortstop
kid
spot
would be-
was full for Grand Junction. What are we talking about here?
I honestly think, though, having a local kid in the starting line would help them.
Have I found at least one Pioneer League manager who is just obviously signing just shortstops? Yes. Am I going to out them here? No. But I have texted them. They know who they are. I think they have 13 position players. I want to say 10 of them are shortstops. So I get it. I see what's happening.
We're going for athletes, Ryan.
Dude, it's a vibe. It's a Pioneer League. Do it. Yeah. Why not? You're going to score a million runs. Who cares if you cough up a couple defensively? It'll be fine. That's actually not how that works, by the way. Outs are far more valuable. Do not throw your outs away if you're in the Pioneer League. Don't be stupid.
Ryan just said he's pro bunting. Get that guy over.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I have one more 30-second rant and I'll be done.
I'm sure it's a pro bunting rant.
No. I've discussed in the past how much I hate Northern Colorado's field. It's the all turf. It's no dirt. Rugby, love rugby. You know me. It's my sport. Has come to High Point recently and has left High Point, I think, with no infield dirt, like painted, which I think is ridiculous because I literally played in the precursor to the league that's the pro league that's playing there now, and that was not a problem at any point having painted line or colored turf, or even we did play on infield dirt like it was the old Oakland Coliseum. Like we've done that. I don't. It's weird, and I hate that. And also, Lancaster's turf looks wonky as hell on streams, but I hear it's not that bad. But I'm still very, very suspicious, and I hate a turf mound. So that's my turf rant for the day. But Lancaster's turf, if you look at it on a live stream, you'll see it looks funky. But I've been told from good sources it's a little speedy, a little skippy in some spots, but it's all right for turf.
In my head, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to connect the end of that Atlantic League talk to the beginning of this preview.
Don't bother. Don't bother. If people know me at this point, they'll be fine with it. I'm on one today.
See, the problem is by not removing it, I'm subscribing to the Flow Sports logic of content creation, which is we're just going to gouge the people that are already here. Only instead of taking their money, I'm taking their time. Which we could argue is more or less valuable, but so let's finally talk about the Frontier League.
Yes. Yeah.
You open up your spreadsheets and I'll do the whole, let's go over the basic stuff.
Cool. Thank you.
There we go. So Frontier League season's going to start on May the 9th, which means it starts on Thursday. So roughly a week from when we're recording this. Season ends on the 1st of September. It's 96 games long. Technically, a 3-round playoff, a wild card round for each, a division championship for each, and then a league championship. So you could tell that means 3 playoff teams from each division there. Same as always. Joliet and Lake Erie were both sold to new ownership groups in the past year. New England got added, technically part of the Windy City group, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of crossover that ownership there. They've had their own thing going on, but whatever there. Quebec and Gateway both won their divisions last year. New Jersey beat Sussex County in the wild card. Evansville beat Schaumburg in the wild card. Quebec beat New Jersey to go to the championship. Evansville beat Gateway to go to the championship. Quebec beat Evansville to win the championship.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Where do we start with this, man?
Want to start in Evansville?
A big thing to take. You know what's funny? That's kind of what I was going to suggest. So
I was just working my way across the border on the top there.
Okay, that works.
So Evansville's up first.
Mm-hmm.
Andy McCauley back again. 52-44 last year. I think going to a championship game and pushing Quebec to the brink is naturally a positive season. I would say there's a few guys I'm interested in seeing. Patrick Lee, I want to see how he does stepping up from the Pioneer League to the Frontier League. Parker Brahmans is a guy that I think is going to be a really solid pitcher. Braden Scott, I believe how that's going to be pronounced. And Jeff Baez, both back. I like them. Joe Reyes is somewhat interesting. A little bit of a wild card pick. Leone de la Cruz, if for no other reason, great name. I do think he could also be a solid pitcher. Any thoughts on Evansville.
Oh my God, I'm just now realizing how ill-prepared I feel for this. Okay. Truly daunting.
It's like walking on a test day without studying.
Oh my God, it really is. It's funny, I was telling Jackie that earlier. I was like, there's nothing worse than me. Like, I don't have enough time to prepare for the thing later today. All I can do is pick what area I want to like start firing shots at. I mean, really, I'm concerned about the lack of infield that excites me. Okay, see that. There we go. It's your reactions are making me like, okay, so it's pretty good.
That's what I'm here to do.
Off of is first run projections, which are not final for players, and like what I know of individual dudes. So yeah, first the infield. I don't necessarily understand what they're doing with that. I do think that the pitching staff actually seems a little bit more put together than last year, which is kind of a trend I didn't necessarily expect when I started this exercise, but it is not one to complain about necessarily. I mean, but here's the thing. Last year they did well, but I felt like they shouldn't have been as good as they were. So that's the caveat on that one. I'm not saying that they're going to be better than they were last year, but I'm saying that they might be a little more like, considering
they look better,
they had the amount of walks they were issuing, it was a little crazy. They were giving up a lot of hits too, but it just wasn't really leaving the yard. They weren't giving up a ton of crooked numbers, and their offense was kind of putting it up, so they was able to cover it when it did happen.
I do want to just say one thing that I will say with Evansville, they seem to put up really good seasons, but I just feel like they always project poorly.
There is something to that.
Like, I don't mean that disrespectfully. They just seemingly outperform what expectations are there. And like, I really don't know why that is. Like, I should expect them to be better. But even in this, I'm looking at them and I had them as a 53 win team, 53 and a half is where I had them roughly at. You know, I'm going to keep doing this because I've gained way too much confidence off of the Atlantic League way of doing this. So,
yeah, I know. Well, we'll see about it.
Yeah, so 53 and a half is kind of where I'm at with them, where that's a good season for a 46 or 96 game season. You know, that's well over 500. It's just, I don't know if they're a top 3 team in their division, which I think speaks more to the quality of the West. I think this year the West is going to be that division where it's like, yeah, they're really that good. Last year it was the East. Everybody was seemingly in it with the exception of Empire State and Three Rivers. Those two were kind of just like, but everybody else was realistically in contention for a playoff spot well into August. And I feel like it's going to be more like that this year in the West. And I just don't know if they have enough to get them over the line there.
I could see that.
Also, it's freaking me out that currently on their roster, there's only about 6 guys on their training camp roster that are older than me. And I don't like that at all.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I'm seeing some 2001 birthdays, and that's really freaking me out.
Yeah. I mean, the pitching staff, again, I don't know. I just don't know even how far to go with it, because you're right, they don't project well. So it's like, well, what are we hanging on to here? I see. I had them, if we're talking win totals, I had them more around my first like brush with them was 56 and a half, which would drop them second in the division probably, which feels right.
I have more.
It's such a tough division, dude.
That's the thing.
That'll be interesting. I'm interested to see if you're going to have above. I think I know at least one. I have. We'll talk about it. It's fine. Yeah. But I could see them going down as low as like 49, which would probably put them in 4th or 5th. So yeah, I don't necessarily. I don't know, but I go see them winning the division, bro. They're kind of. Things are so tightly packed in the West that it's like, well, it depends if 2 or 3 guys work out or 1 or 2 guys get signed a month earlier than we think they might. That could just, that's your standings. So that's a fun cop out before all of these conversations. But yeah, I don't want to talk too long on it. I know we haven't really named a ton of names, and I don't think I'm going to throughout this podcast, but that is my general vibe on the Evansville. You can pick names. I'm going general vibe this episode.
Let's keep it moving because we do have 16 teams to get through here, and I don't want to get bogged down on any one team. Although it does feel like the same thing happened last week with Charleston leading off, Evansville leads off. They kind of feel like similar vibe, where they're a very interesting team to talk about.
Right. Yeah.
A little bit less interesting. The Florence Y'alls, Chad Rhodes is back for the second year. 38 wins last year, 58 losses. Craig Massey's interesting. I am just a kind of a Craig Massey fan.
Mm-hmm.
Carter Pori, I think, is an interesting pitcher. And then Zade Richardson's a player that I'm curious about. I don't think this is a playoff team. I actually have them 38.5. I think they're pretty similar to last year, all things considered. When it comes to Rhodes, I like him as a person. I think he's great for the team. I just question his ability to build a complete roster, and I think that's more or less just being still very new to the whole thing. I think over time he'll get better, and I would like to see him maybe get one more experienced guy on the staff, because at least as of right now, the y'all say is very bad for trying to find, front office staff and baseball personnel. So perhaps those exist and it's just not listed. It looks like Carl Craigie and Rhodey are the only guys on the staff, which I could see if you have a player coach as a hitting coach, which could be Massey's role. But I would love to see them add one more experienced guy that may help with, like roster development.
Agreed. Yeah, we are eye to eye on that. In fact, we're so eye to eye. I just looked at my first run projection for them, and I had 38.5 as well.
Damn.
So yeah, I felt good about that. For me, I'm looking at guys like Brian Fuentes, like just roster wise, that are going to have to continue to come through. He looked great last year. I was really impressed. Could use a good Jeremiah Burke season.
That was another name I looked at.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And I mean, the infield, I feel better about. There was a couple guys. Brennan Price I think he's experienced one. He's a younger guy, but I liked he made some contribution last year. I was like, okay, cool. Jeremiah Burke's under 250 when everything sort of came out last year, so that's a tough one. But
also Massey is a player coach, by the way.
There you go. Okay, that does track. Brennan Price, though, he's his third year. He's been over 300 the first two seasons. I mean, they need him to keep doing it. It's tough to ask. Like, it's tough to be like, hey, we need you to drop 85 to 95 games and hit over 300. But, like, there's not real wiggle room in this lineup, unfortunately. There's nobody really there to pick it up if they don't. If you look, there's a real lack of outfield depth and talent right now. I mean, almost literally.
Tristan Garcia is also 5'4", which is kind of interesting to see an outfielder that size. Exciting if you're into it.
Oh,
absolutely, could be.
Yeah, short kings. So that's kind of where we're at. I believe their pitching staff. Honestly, they're pitching last year. It wasn't impressive by any means, but all things considered, it was actually one of the better staffs, like WAR-wise, at least according to Jack Kelly over at Frontier League Savant. So whether, optically that staff looks good, they are actually performing pretty well based on what they're dealing with. And that's fine. It's just, hopefully they rely on some people to, I want to say hopefully they rely on people to get some more lineup construction, lineup depth, but I'm just, I feel like it would have happened by now. Now, of course, it's mid-year ads, whatever. But yeah, that's why I like Florence a lot. I really like Chad as a vibe, and he seems like an awesome human. I worry that is, I feel like he could just use a set baseball operations guy, and he might be off and running.
Definitely. In hindsight, we probably should have brought Jack back on to help us with this preview, but
oh my God, we're so stupid, but we'll deal with that later.
I know, because that would have just been one text like, hey, you want to help us with this?
He'd be so down. I'm already working with them on the Frontier League stuff now. That's probably what's taking me a little while, is because I'm like doing some graphic stuff with him. Not throwing him under the bus. It's a Ryan problem. It's just that, like, I can't just blitz.
Ryan throws college student that's doing unpaid work for him under bus.
I'm helping him. Easy there, boys. I'm taking. He's got some really good data.
My God.
He's got some great data. We're making some graphics on it. Don't you start that. Easy now. All right, we got to roll. We're through 2 teams here. We went
Let's
through
keep
3
it going.
minutes
Let's
per
go to
team.
Gateway. Let's go to Gateway up next. They were
Ooh.
59 win team last year, 37 losses. Steve Brook coming in year 3. I don't think it's going to be as good of a year. I think slight drop off. I still believe they're a playoff team. I have more 56.5 wins. I like Peter Zimmerman a lot. Kevin Krause is a guy I like. Andrew Moritz is interesting. Gabe Holt is interesting. Jose Alvarez is interesting. There's a couple of pitchers I like. Garkhouse, a guy I like. Weinbergs, I like. There's a few others in there too. Oh, coming over from New Jersey here.
Dylan Castaneda,
thank you.
Yep.
So I like those guys. I think there's some good pitching depth here. I also put a lot of weight on the manager side of things, particularly in the Frontier League, because I think you need a more adept manager in this league, just because there's so many ebbs and flows of the season, and with the roster restrictions as things go on, you need a guy that's able to think on his feet and adapt quickly. So from that perspective, when you see a guy like Steve Brook, we'll talk about Mike Pinto next. We'll talk about some of the other more experienced managers, Tom Faith, Jamie Bennett, among others. I put more weight on their teams being able to adapt on the fly and have those connections that can get them in there. On that front, I do like them a lot. I think there's a world where they don't do well, but I also think there's a lot of positives here. And I think there's a lot of potential for them to not have the same level of success as last year, but to have, again, another successful year. Because let's be real, in the Frontier League, there's 16 teams, 6 make the playoffs. If you make the playoffs, it's a good year. If you are playing for a shot in the championship game, it's a very good year. If you're playing in the championship game, it's a great year. And if you win it, best possible outcome. So it's just, I view making the playoffs as a success in this league.
Agreed. I'm looking at guys who need to kind of keep that infield momentum riding, because they had such good infield last year. DJ Stewart coming back. Who's the other? Just
back. Zimmerman's back. Gadel's back.
Zimmerman, thank you. Yes.
Yep.
But also, don't sleep on guys like Josh Lucas returning. Lucas Weinbergs is back again. He tossed 103 innings last year. Yep. Carson LaRue's on the protected list. The way that Gateway used the protected list kind of drives me crazy. It's something I'm still looking into. I'd be surprised if a lot of these guys end up on the roster. I think they're a little aggressive calling contract dibs on some guys who aren't around, but we'll deal with that later. But I could be wrong, and we'll all learn an important lesson here. So just be aware of that. That's my caution. Nate Garko coming back, by the way, huge for that bullpen. That's, 40 outings last year, 47 innings. Just from a use perspective, that's big. Hopefully he doesn't see any drop off from that. 60 Ks over that. So I think it's a solid team. I think they will see a slight step backwards just because the level of competition in the division's up. I think they really benefited from the West being soft last year. I would still probably end up dropping them around a 53 win team, probably second or third in the league. I got them around third right now. But again, I got to, these are just preliminary numbers, but that's what I'm looking at with them.
Yeah, I have them in at the second spot currently. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I will say it gets a lot tighter as we go up more. I have a lot of teams that are around that 50 to 56 win mark. There's a lot of teams in there for me. But
yeah, I got myself, I have 7. So I feel
So the West is such an interesting division, and we're going to keep talking about with Joliet next. A 46 and 50 team last year. Mike Pinto comes in. The Vex come in to own the team. And this is a team that I think maybe my front runner to win the West. I have them at about 58.5 wins. I'm really high at it, partially because really like Mike as a manager, even though he's a B+ manager, but still,
Wow.
Yeah.
Never let it go.
Never going to let go. I'm sure he's going to love to see us in a couple, Junes when they go to New York. I'm sure he's going to love seeing me then. But Garabella, I like. Dwayne Marshall, I think, can really step up and have a good year here. I wasn't a great year last year, but the year before that, in 22, he He had a strong showing in Sussex. Zach Westcott, I'm always a believer in. Zach Bierman, I'm a believer in. I'm a big believer in working team. That would be. I like a lot of the guys on this team, and I like the ability of Pinto to build a team and really get that team to be a unit. And I think he's able to make the decisions in season to adapt on the fly. And he obviously has the network to do it. So I think that's a huge plus to him and his team. And in a division where 1 or 2 games will decide whether you are, waiting for a wild card winner or your season is done, I think this is a team that just does enough to get over that line for me.
Yeah. I have them sitting 4th right now, but it's really close. It's such a cluster in the middle of that. I have them landing
Italian American discrimination.
Listen, I have them sitting around a 51. That's a good improvement from last year. 51 win total. Again, I got to take a deeper look. There's some question marks I have on that roster that I just have to take a closer look at. Like things that came back on projections were like, that doesn't make sense. So I need to figure out. Sometimes a guy will just have like a weird 4-year stretch that like the projection model is just not built to handle. So I have to like manually input some stuff, but they had a few of those. So that we'll see as that gets a little bit closer, but he's definitely been the guy we expect, right? Bringing in people and not being afraid to make some moves. So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic on it, I guess would be the way to say it. I don't know. That feels like a cop out, I guess, but I don't know. I'm even looking at the roster and like, I don't even know where to begin with the guys on that roster. So hold on. I'll do a little bit of a better job here. Mitchell Ballant sticks out. I am aware of him because he was fairly local to actually where I'm at. Liked him behind the dish.
Jasevic's also here too, which I think is a solid pitcher.
Yeah, agreed. And I want to say this is so weird that like I have guys in my head who I always think are really good, and I look and it's just like no, they were just really good every time I saw them. And
there's a couple guys in this roster that I like that. I will say Liam McCarthy is another interesting name who got to Joliet last year, did really well. That's a guy that's carving something out for himself after having to play with Empire State for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
I do like him a lot. Yeah,
and I kind of give a little bit of leeway to guys who do get picked up from Empire State because that means somebody saw them in person and were like, yeah, that's a guy that I could use. Matthew Warkentin, he was the one that had some moments last year where I was really like, oh, like I'm kind of surprised he's here. And then other times where I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I'm trying to think.
A mountain of a man too, dude.
I know, he's a big one, bro.
He's a chunk.
Yeah, he almost hit 300. That tracks. Because he was getting on 364, 638, by the way, was that slugging 27 homers. I knew he hit 20 homers. I didn't know he got all the way up 27. I did. It just, my brain was like, I can only hold so much information. He gets on base, bro. Actually not that impressive a clip, if I'm being honest, but you'd like to see him probably take some more walks, but he's mashing baseballs, so it's hard to say to swing less. When he swings, things happen. So,
when he's hitting a home run once every 3 games, that does help out a lot,
Sort of reading some, this was the other one. Ian Delliman. Is he the same Ian I'm thinking of? Because I have 2 in my brain and I can only fit 2 apparently. Actually, I can only fit 1. Yeah, last year. Short stint, but he looked really good in it. And then he pitched in, what got my attention last year? Oh, he had like some ridiculous whip in college. And then he like kind of kept the same energy when he got to the Frontier League for a short stint. So he's one I'm really excited about, but he's Pro 1. That's right, but they don't do a rookie anymore, so that's not bad. So I like the young guys that seem to be coming along. That was the thing that stuck out to me because when you see Joliet, an experienced manager coming in, you start to think, oh, they're going to see a lot of like experienced indie ball guys. But I was watching a lot of the guys who were coming into the roster from, either they had only a short stint before or that they're, brand new guys and they're actually kind of some potentially impact guys, which is something to watch because that's where you start to hit some roster fillers on other teams. And if you're getting contributions on those roster spots where others aren't, that's a win. It'll be interesting to see what Wyatt Stapp does because he's a potential guy to come up throughout the year.
That was another team I was looking at.
Yeah, he killed it for Schaumburg over like a month and in 2022, and then He was very good in college. He played for Cincinnati, and then with Joliet last year, it did not go well, and over like a week or two, and then that was the end of that. So he's back. I'd like to see him if he makes out of camp. Watch for him to be someone who continues to be a headache for moving forward in lineups. Like even just on a day off, that guy who ends up like tacking a couple RBIs or like drawing an inconvenient walk, and you're just like, yeah, like that could be the guy on that one. I don't know, man. Yeah, that's kind of where I land. Sorry for talking in circles on Joliet, but I do find them to be an interesting roster. It's just like, where do I even begin with them from somebody who is currently drowning in numbers?
See, that's the thing with them, though, is they're interesting enough to where I believe that it's going to have enough pieces to come together.
Right. Spencer Griffin. There we go. I knew there was an outfielder floating around that I thought was fascinating. Spencer Griffin's a guy. He was with Sussex last year for a little bit, like a little bit. But he was playing in high A ball for the Angels for a minute. He was kind of like, it seemed like they thought he was going to be a little bit better than he was. He got up to, he even sniffed AAA just as like a fill and roll. But he was like 250-ish pre-COVID at single A, and then he just sort of faded. But he looked like he could compete with Frontier League pitching last year in a really short stint. And if he can, that'd be a really nice thing to stumble into.
We're talking about the Lake Erie Crushers now.
Okay, moving on. I can do that.
Talking about another team that we had somebody on this show from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They had 37 wins last year and 59 losses. Jared Lemieux is back for his second year at manager. And there's about 4 pitchers that I like. And then everybody else is kind of, I don't know what to make of them. I think they're a 50-win team.
Hold on, do you think they're a how many win team?
About 50. I have 50.5. That's an optimistic outlook, though. I will admit.
Not everybody can win 50.
You're going to notice that the East is really doing some heavy lifting on the 50-win numbers.
I could see that. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Matt Mulhern is one guy that jumped out, and same with Sam Curtis. I also like Kenny Pearson. I think he is one of those low-key guys that's going to do well. And then Matt Vallon, I've always kind of been big on.
I am double-checking one of these things. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I don't necessarily. Okay, it's fine. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough for me to push Lake Erie that hard. I just don't know if they've added enough. I understand that this is sort of I see what they're going for. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
My concern is I don't know that they are going to. I see where they're heading. I don't know if they're going to get there soon enough to be competitive this year. I think that was what I was looking for. They are keeping some of the good pieces around. Darren Reagan's joining on the pitching side. Awesome. Delaware guys, vibes. So I feel more sold on the pitching staff on this side. I mean, Trevor Kunkel coming back.
I love the pitching staff. Going on. I think they're one of the better ones in the league. That's why I have them at 50. I think the pitching is going to carry them for a long time.
Okay. See, you and I might have different definitions of long time. That's my only thing.
I think till July, and then I think it's going to give out towards the end of July. Okay.
That's actually oddly specific, and I appreciate that. I see a lot of returning faces that I feel like prove they didn't work last year. I hate to be that guy. Sam Frontino, John Cicillo. Sorry, I hate calling out guys for not hitting well. I'll stop there, but
I'll make a point of tagging them. Don't worry.
Thanks, appreciate it. That's where I just start to wonder a little bit. Like, hey, what is the plan? But
win with arms. But the problem is there's not enough depth in the arms to do that for a long time without.
I don't know that there's
enough depth
for anyone to really pull that off. Like, let alone, I think they got out hit for large pieces of the year by Empire State last year. What in God's name? Now, by the way,
can happen again though.
I think Ron Washington Jr. could be a something. He's in the outfield for them now, and I think it could
Range
be
Junction last year, right?
Range Junction, but three really put up numbers, like not just.
I just want to remember where the name was from.
Numbers 24 homers, 350, 441, 616 slash. Like if you put over a 1 OPS in the Pioneer League, I at least think you can compete fairly well at the Frontier League level in general. There's a good bit of generalization through there. I'm not shining as much of a light on the pitching staff because there's some familiar names and some familiar faces there, but I do think it's a more complete effort. Again, it's just, you get guys. I'm not going to pick on the lineup too much either. So maybe I'm just good. Maybe I'm good on it. The pitching staff is great. It's very good. We'll call it very good. The batting, I don't understand. I just wanted them to do more, because it didn't need to be like you need to have this whole lineup and fix the whole thing. Get me just up the middle. You know what I mean? Just focus second base, shortstop, center field, and work from there. And I didn't even really see that in a convincing fashion. And that's where I start to worry about what could happen this year. And we could be a rerun of last year in many ways.
I could see that. I really do believe the pitching staff a lot. And I think I really do. I really like a lot of these guys. And so
Scott Knotts, by the way, if they kept around, he hit over 300 last year, well over. So that'll be interesting. I don't know. He's not, but again, corner outfielder. I don't think he's really going to fill that gap that way, man. I don't know. That's where I'm trying to piece it together in my head. And I'm like not seeing it, unfortunately.
Well, I have a different puzzle for you to solve, and that's the Schaumburg Boomers, because we're going to keep moving on to them.
That's right.
54 and 41 last year. Jamie Bennett back for what I believe is the 11th season. But they have some really, really solid guys. Davion White's a guy that we were talking about a few weeks ago that we both said, I'm interested in seeing what he can do. Cole Cookson, which we all know what he can do. He's a very solid player. Chase Dawson's returning. Mr. Boomer, as it would seem to be. Aaron Glickstein is back. TDJ is also going to be in here. Aaron Simmons is here. Alec Craig is here. Dylan Stutzman is here. Overall, I really like the team. There's a lot of familiar faces that are going to be coming back that I think will really help contribute. I think there's some new guys that are really going to help. Obviously, a guy like Cole Cook's going to always help out the pitching staff. But as far as the batting side goes, why, yeah, there's guys like the ones I just had mentioned that I think are solid. Just others to leave some meat on the bone there, so you have something to dive in on. But overall, I like the team. I go between them and a few others for that last playoff spot. I think they're like mid-50s, if I had to be honest. Gun to my head to put a number to it, I kind of put them at 54, 55 in that general range. And I do think I got a little carried away on some of the teams for their win projection on it. But I do really like a lot of these West teams. And this is a team that I think overall, depth-wise, I think they're a more complete team than a lot of other teams, while they do lack a large amount of kind of blow-away guys. But they do have some.
Yeah, well, I think Schaumburg did a good job of keeping a lot of their key pieces from last year. I mean, Gage Howard's one thing, but they did bring back, they bring back Chase, they're bringing back Alec Craig, Coco, Figueiredo, which I'm going to get better with the name this year. I was close last year, though. Brent Milazzo, Blake Berry. Those are like the probably 5, 6. I mean, Will Prater's back. Like, so just 7 of the top, batting presences throughout their lineup last year. They are returning. I get what you're saying. I mean, that isn't necessarily the best thing, maybe, but I mean, they did put up runs throughout the year last year. So, yeah. On the pitching side, yeah, it's my issue with them on the pitching side is they're another one like Gateway where they have a lot of protected guys, which doesn't necessarily mean we can expect to see these guys. So I'm looking at like, oh, well, Kobe Schlottman would be great to have, but he's protected. I don't think we're going to see him around. Then I'm trying to scroll. There we go. We got it back in order. Luis Perez, another one. Antonio Frias, another one. I mean, these are the protected list is pitchers essentially. Yeah. So that's a concerning step. So what's going to be left? That's where we start trying to pick up the pieces here a little bit. Personally, I've got Schaumburg sitting around the top of the West, but I don't really have it as convincing.
I can see the problem is their offense is really small ball. So
yeah, that's fair.
It can definitely work. I mean, we saw with Stoney how well that can work. And I mean, Schaumburg went to 2 championships and won one doing that. And they've been on a playoff streak as of late doing it. So It absolutely can work. But you'd like to have that one guy that's your power guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and they need the pitching staff to not have holes, because the problem is you become real vulnerable if you're playing small ball to the bigger inning. So you need stoppers, you need guys who can really find their lane and execute well. I'm looking at guys like Jake Joyce, who they had a good year last year, but it was a step back. Honestly,
in fairness, he also took over as a player coach role, so he had more to do.
Understood, but that production's fine. We'll hit the zone more, but that's fine as long as it isn't sort of a trend. That's the concern. That I'm not like, oh, he's got to do more. I'm saying let's make sure it's not a beginning of a bigger issue. And then I'm sorry, did I hear you say you were feeling good about their pitching?
Yeah, I do like a lot of the pieces here.
Okay. That's where you and I probably veer a little bit. I do like the pieces. I feel like the concern is that they need so many of pieces. Like they really need to avoid any big issues. Like I've been thinking about Charleston because I talked to PJ to have him on the pod. And I'm looking at Charleston's crazy offense. The nice thing is you can have some guys who prone to a blow up here and there out of your bullpen, or guys who maybe aren't going to eat up a lot of salary. Because even if you give up the occasional 2 or 3 spot unexpectedly in an inning, your offense they're going to have you in a bunch. Schaumburg gets a tougher one to take because they're going to need to, that's going to be multiple hits that got string together to probably get that back now. That's where I don't necessarily see that level of depth. And there's where I worry a little more. If that makes sense. I mean,
I see where you're coming from. I definitely agree with that to a certain degree. It's just, I look at the individuals and I like Cook. I like Lickstein. I like Joyce. I like Stutzman. Whittle's a guy I have faith in to really show up. There's a bunch of guys in here that I see that I have faith in to show up and do well. I feel like that's going to be good enough. And I do believe in the small ball way of doing things. Mm-hmm. So I'm less concerned. I would just like to see them have 1 or 2 real power bat kind of guys. And I just don't know if they have that.
Okay. So we're looking at it from different sides, but I understand that. You're saying you're wishing they had more power, and I'm saying because they don't have more power, I wish they had a little more depth on the pitching side. So, I mean, either choose your own adventure, but that's why we're a little concerned, but also they're still a good team. So it's not like we're saying they're going to suck.
Yeah, it's more or less dissecting a team that is already good. It's more, I guess, patching the flaws in an already built wall.
Yeah, fair.
So, at this point, I think it's a good way to transition to Washington, which is an interesting discussion. A team that's historically been strong, but last year was not. 47 and 49, a game, 2 games under 500, but really they're swing 1, you're 500. Tom Bates back again. This is another one where it's like we spent a lot of time talking about their pitching staff a couple weeks back again, and guys like Lucas Young, Kobe Foster, Friago, those were all like younger pieces that we spent a lot of time discussing. So I'm not sure how much we're going to spend here, but a guy like Justin Goosen Brown, I like him. Tyreek Reed, I like. And then there's a couple bats. I'm always going to be an Andrew Check fan. I believe in him a lot. Robert Chaika's an interesting player. Is in there with Wagner Lagrange. I like him. I'm not sure I love him, but I like him. This is a roster that I think is like right around the 4 or 5 spot in the league. 45.5 is where I was at. This is probably one of those teams that, in hindsight, there's probably 2 or 3 teams I would knock down their win projection on. But I also don't think it's an unreasonable projection, but I think they need a little bit of help.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that stand out are the returners. Having Goose and Brown back, having Kobe Foster back. He was sort of the standout last year. He was key to, returning if they're going to start to. He's what made it so they didn't really have to rebuild. Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you lost that piece, it's like, all right, then we kind of have to re-strategize a lot of things here. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's another one where I don't know if they've done enough, and that could be a side effect of I think a lot of teams in the division have improved. So have they done enough? We think of, because of how far they dropped off from their standard, like we think of them as like being a real disaster. But frankly, I mean, they were middle of the pack on both sides. Like,
Yeah, it's just they have such a high standard where they're kind of consistently a round two team.
Right. And I think we need to also look at, this was one of the younger teams out there last year. I mean, they have right now, if you're just looking at their pitching staff, they have two guys who are experienced 2 level. Everyone else is basically in their first 3 years of pro ball. That's good. I mean, it did feel more like a building year at least, which is optimistic. And that trend continued on the offensive side too. So it's now just more or less looking at guys who, what do we learn? Who's going to be the future moving forward? And hopefully that's what they feel like they're getting stacked up here. Looking at like the actual most productive guys. Let's see. I mostly have Andrew Check for sure. Bricado.
Didn't Broncado?
No, he moved on.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say.
Yeah, but Wagner Lagrange, and then I missed Sky. No, I did see that happen. But they actually did kind of lose a lot on the offensive side. Now that you look at it, Robert Shaker, though, come back on the outfield, at least is going to give them something. But I would say of their 6 notable guys, what about 4 of them move on? 3 of them?
That's the thing. Like, it's the batting side of things I don't love.
It didn't catch me the same way until I really looked at it, like when I ranked it by like projected WAR for guys from last year's team, and the rest. Yeah, that's a bit more of a hole than I thought. I like where they're going with the pitching side. I see what's happening here, but I also don't. I feel like they took a maybe unexpected step back in the development curve on the offensive side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You can disagree with that.
No, I don't disagree with it. I'm still just kind of enamored of the pitching because there is a lot of pitching depth here. I mean, Christian James is on the inactive list, and he's a guy that could be very, very important to this team if he, plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I will agree. I think that there needs to be some surprise performers on the batting side of things to really, make this work.
I mean, alternate idea, we just talked about how much young pitching they have. It could be a matter of, getting a few weeks in the season, showing the young talent you have, and then maybe moving a guy or two and filling in the offensive side a little bit more. Because young arms, dude, they're so valuable in this league.
Controllable years in a roundabout way.
That's it. Yeah. That's it.
Controllable years means something totally different around here. It just means years that we don't have to use an experienced or veteran spot on them. Exactly
right. And there's a lot of them, man. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at least listed on the current roster, just on the pitching side, that are Pro 1. So that's year 1 for that clock.
Switching gears to a team that I think has historically, the further back you go, the better they've been. But more recently, I've always kind of struggled. Windy City, 9 games under 500 last year. Bobby Jenks comes in, which I do like as a hire. I liked him a lot in Grand Junction. And so I'm interested to see what he could do here. Cameron Feltz is a guy that kind of stands out to me. Good in Ogden, and should see how he transforms here. Taylor Sugg is an interesting guy. I believe he was Lake Erie last year. And there's a few others. Justin Miller, Jack Mahoney. But I still don't love this team. I think they're a 39-40 win team.
Yeah, I'm, pull a number, but I have them as a 37-38 win
Look
team.
At us, nearly on the same page.
I mean, if you're going to be the bottom of that division, there's,
going to be some bad numbers.
A thin pool to pick from. Yeah. I hate to say it. I don't know. It's just. What is your take on the off-season moves?
It just feels very underwhelming. I don't really know why that is. Yeah. They do have a former Air Force cadet on this team in Alex Pup, though. I did not realize that. He apparently went to Air Force Academy for at least 3 years, played ball for 3 years. So And then he wound up playing indie ball after that. East Side for a couple years. Ooh, really good last year in East Side. That's kind of curious. That USPBL guy who hit 186 with nothing else really cooking on the slash link is at the very least an invite.
I mean, right now we're looking at Sebastian Selway, Henry Omana, Javier Reynoso, Kenny Matthews, and Garrett Kreisman not on the roster. It's the top 5 offensive producers in my book from last year.
Yeah. It feels like it's a very young roster. I mean, even just looking at the headshots of most of these guys, it's either summer ball or college.
Productive pitchers. Sorry.
Yeah. I was going to say, I thought pitcher, but whatever.
You're all good. I'm looking at one list of like labeled list while actually reading names off the other one, but those are my top 5 on the pitching side.
I don't.
I
never want to speculate on a team situation, but it feels like a cheap roster.
Okay, so funny you're gonna say that. So when I asked the question initially, it's because they continuously were given the feeling as I was looking at their transactions of a lot of the guys that I would look to sign to fill out the roster fully. Like when the last guys you signed maybe to like even hold a spot for a visa guy. It didn't feel like guys were like, this is the squad we're going in with. Yeah. Not to hate on anybody in particular. Now I'm going to name names on it, but like, oh, by the way, offensive side, top 5 producers from last year also not back. So consistency is key. Mm-hmm. That's where I was going with that line of questioning. And it's so funny you said exactly that way. I think, it does feel like a cheap route. It definitely feels like a team that's not using their budget.
Oh yeah. It feels like here's the thing.
That's my new thing this year. I'm starting to call that out.
Yeah.
Starting to call it out. If you're not using your cap, I'm going to say it.
Here's the thing. I don't even necessarily hate that all the time. If it's a rebuilding year, as much as you can have one around here, I don't hate it. Let's fill the roster with a bunch of young guys and either move out some guys that you think you get a good return on for, more building block pieces, or see who you have for next year. I mean, I've discussed it numerous times with New England, and New England's up next. It's discussed with the preview, so I'll probably say it again. But I don't hate burning year 1 as a building year. And in those rebuilding years, you double and triple down and spend the money that would have been on the roster, spend it on the fan experience to get people in the ballpark and enjoy being there and upping those attendance numbers and really helping your budget elsewhere. And, trying to get to where you can maintain that standard and put a winning product out there. I'm totally cool with that. It's when it becomes every year that it becomes a problem, right? Yes. At a certain point, you have to shift gears from, okay, we're going to see who's good, who's not, who's cheap, and who's going to cost us some, and switch gears to, it's time to try to win. And I understand it can't be time to try to win every year for every organization. There is a monetary expense that comes with it. And as we've seen with different leagues and different teams, winning doesn't always, if ever, translate into increased attendance. So I understand that. But at the same point in time, you have to do enough to draw people in for off the field reasons, and you still have to keep the integrity on the field of understand we're playing professional baseball here. We're still trying to win. The appeal of indie ball, at least for me, as I said multiple times, is you're always trying to win. There's no development here. It's win or lose, win or go home. So you do have to, at a certain point, switch gears to win. So I'm not going to go all in because I don't know what Windy City's situation is. And if it's a rebuilding year and it's just like, okay, new manager in Bobby Jenks, let's see him get his guys established, get the young guys he wants in there, and let's see how it goes next year. But as far as 2024 is concerned, it does seem like a cheap roster that's not going to contend.
Yes. I'm checking out a couple other guys who I'm interested in. I will say this is what my rooting interest is for this year is that Tyler Laporte gets out of purgatory. He is in the absolute hell zone of he's from, I believe it's local. He is. Oh no, he's not at all local. But how does he? Never mind. Doesn't matter. He keeps ending up on Lancaster. When one of those ones where if you keep seeing a guy only end up on one roster, and he played for maybe it's because he played in Williamsport, but but Lancaster, he's basically posted over time like a 5.5 ERA. But like last year in 10 innings with Windy City, you had a sub-1 ERA. Okay, so we need Tyler to give us a few more of those and get out. Maybe go American Association. Maybe try that avenue, ease in. Let's not just jump right back in. Or maybe it doesn't play well at Lancaster's ballpark. Maybe because he does give up some bombs there, which is not characteristic for him. Tyler, are you listening? Need you. Have a good year. I need you to go somewhere else. I need you to go. I don't really care where else, frankly. Like Staten Island, that seems fun. Maybe go there. Or, or see, what Cleburne's doing in the American Association. See that you're from Louisiana. Do that. Because I can't watch this anymore, my guy. Like, I like your vibe. I like what's going on here. I need you to get out of purgatory for me because watching you bounce between the two leagues is going to kill me if this happens.
The genie granting that wish just said, okay, he'll be an Oakland baller.
Oh, God. I think he's already passed the roster limitations, frankly.
Don't worry. They'll find a way.
But yeah, Justin Miller's an interesting one, huh? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not going to dig into that, but Taylor Sugg, if he has a year, he can get himself out of Windy City. That'd be cool. Anyway, I'm going to stop now. We're good.
All right. So being that we're done with the West now, we can shift to the East. I believe we're going to see a little bit more realistic win projections over here on the East side of life. I don't think we're going to have that same kind of 50 win barrage, if you would.
Yeah, that's fair.
Starting with New England, first year team. Jared Edmondson's going to be the guy calling the orders on the bench. We've talked a lot about this team in the past, obviously. I think this roster is about a 37 win, 38 win team. While I like some guys, McCarthy, O'Sullivan, Robinson, I don't know how much else there is here. Ben Asdell is interesting. Brago is kind of interesting. But considering everything that happened off the field, this is a team that really needs a good season, at least off the field, right?
Yeah, bro. 100%. I mean, it needs to, they need something to show, like some reason to come back. And there's a lot of times where it's like with Lexington right now, I'm like, bro, they could lose every game as long as it's a good product off the field. Fine. As long as we're taking care of the city. This is one where I'm like, I think the city doesn't even know about them. They need to do something that gets a little bit of attention here. Where to begin?
Brent Spillane, I saw he just got released, but
might have. I thought I just saw on someone else's roster, if I'm being honest with you.
That's what I'm thinking. I may be wrong, but yeah.
But yeah, he was an early one too. I thought there was.
Yeah, he was part of the trade that brought Robinson over too. That definitely felt like the ownership group being like, okay, we need to help out this team.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Yeah, released on April 27th.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you got traded there for players to be named later.
Jake, I'm just looking through guys. Jake Boone, he was with Windy City last year.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Negative war. And me laughing at that did not help.
Negative what?
Negative war last year.
Oh, that's not good. Ryan Ends. Hey, like something with your name in it.
And it ends indeed. Luis Atiles, he was a guy. I know, but also a negative war guy.
I was Enos, not Ends. The font made like a D.
Yeah. Is it Enos? I thought it was Ends.
I thought it was Ends too. That font is deceptive, man. A lot of 24-year-olds on this team.
They'll do that.
24, 25.
Austin White, not a bad ad, by the way. I liked Austin White last year with Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, just
overall vibe with this team. Overall vibe.
They have no idea what they're doing.
Fair. I
really don't want to be that rough, but it kind of is that.
Man, I just want them to do well.
I know. I wanted to. This is, yeah. I don't know. I hate to be negative. I'm being that to the point because I don't want to even dive too aggressively in on it. Brad Van Azian.
Oh, well, at least they have a general manager now. John Wilson.
Yes,
That's good.
seems to potentially be an adult. So that's good. That's a win, assuming that was the issue, which we're just trusting that.
Benefit of the doubt until they lose it.
Van Asdelin. Sorry, I messed up.
Yeah, that's the guy I mentioned.
He's a guy
earlier.
who has had moments in the Frontier League, and then the wheels really fell off last year. So we'll see if he comes back to it. Liam O'Sullivan being on this team is just funny. I don't know. Hi, Liam. I don't know. Like, Liam's everywhere, and that kind of makes me laugh. He had a solid year.
Why is he not a player coach here?
Why is he here? Someone in the Atlantic League save Liam O'Sullivan. It's fine.
Save him.
There are guys that have jobs in the Atlantic League who just, it doesn't make any sense. I think Charles Kelly, by the way, doesn't have an E in that last name. I think it's just LLY, but no, never mind. I'm wrong. I have no idea. That's fine.
It's an interesting.
Personally, I really like Liam O'Sullivan. I think he's
I like him too. I think he's got.
Yeah.
Well, I like him back in Somerset too. So
I mean, dude, he went sub 5 over 14 starts with Southern Maryland last year. He had a 5 ERA in the Atlantic League last year. Pitched 122 innings. Why is
he had an 8?
Why is he here, dude? So
he had an 8. He can pitch.
Since when do we care about 2 years ago?
Apparently now. Also, he's 33, so I guess
he's from Worcester, so that's probably it. This feels like a potential personal choice. I'm doing what I can.
Talk about a happier situation in New Jersey, or do you have anything more for New England?
Sure. I mean, I think that's fine.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep this thing moving.
I know. I'm with you. I can I can linger on something as long as you want to, and I can move whenever you want to.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep this from being, because we're an hour in right now. We have 7 teams left.
Yeah, my bad. We got this.
Yeah, I know you want to record tonight too, so I'm trying to,
I'm in pain.
Yep. I'm just saving you from yourself. Not going well. So New Jersey, obviously a lot's happened over there, accumulating some losses. Not so much on the field. 16-35 last year. Good friend Bert Gonzalez going to be the manager there, so good for him. But this is not necessarily an enviable task. As much as I like the guy, I don't love the roster. Joe Testa's nice. Hector Roa, I think, could do really well there. Dazon Cole is solid. There's a bunch of other guys like Riho, Olenin, I believe, Sonny Olenin. Alec Thompson and Frank Nigro, I think, are all solid players. But I also don't see much high-end talent here. There's a bunch of guys I think they could possibly be a nice role player. But not a lot of guys I'm like, they could definitely be the guys powering your team. I have them around 40 wins, to be honest. But, I just, they had Miguel Gomez. That must be new. But even still, it doesn't really change my opinion. I will be interested to see how that goes.
That's kind of where I'm at. It's a lot. A lot of the more experienced guys don't have a ton of interest. A lot of the experienced guys who did damage last year followed PJ at Charleston, or just left town, when PJ left. There's not a lot of guys with substantial experience in the league or in comparable leagues coming to this team right now. And it doesn't seem like an easy place to recruit to, not only because, pitching wise, you have the challenges of the weird ballpark, though. If they're intelligent, they're getting the word out about, like, this is technically a pitcher's park. Like, if you look at the numbers, it actually doesn't favor hitters that much. If you're talking hitters, they better be like, short porch, it favors hitters. Like, just do it. It's fine. Just sell both ways. Does not matter. Everyone, you either are going to be successful or not. It's going to be based on your stuff. We're dealing with the core issue, which is people don't want to go there because also of the ownership situation, which we just joked about when it comes to the fancy new clubhouse in Sussex and the high school locker room in New Jersey, literal high school locker room. So it's just, when it comes to where you're located living wise, you're set up for playing. You know, if it's a shared
tough
locker
role.
room space, you have to every road trip like take your stuff. I would assume that's still the arrangement. Like,
You're also switching ballparks about 95% of the way through the year. That's never great.
It's tough to not be a first choice for people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's very few people where it's a first choice, and maybe it's like some right-handed or some left-handed sluggers. Like that might be your situation, but like that it makes it really difficult. Where if anybody on that list of like chosen spots for a guy offers him something, he's going there. And you're like, damn, all right, like nothing you can do. Shout out Gonzalez though.
True. Here's the thing. I think the clubhouse atmosphere is going to be very nice. I think that culture will be strong. I just don't know if that culture is going to be strong enough to overcome all the other more logistic problems with the organization.
And I hope this isn't a 1 year thing, because remember, this all went down late. Like this.
Bert got a bad draw.
Yeah, and he got a late jump here. I'm hoping this isn't bringing in Bert to be like, hey, can you fill this year for us while we find our long-term solution? I'm hoping that this is like, hey, can you come here? You know, like Bert knows people, like the young guys, the grinders. Like if you want a guy to build a multi-year, you know, through the very specific Frontier League roster restrictions, a multi-year path to success, Bert's probably one of the guys who can do it. So hopefully that's what this is, because I'll be really frustrated if they have him grind through a year and then they go separate ways. That'll be ridiculous, unless, of course, it's his choice, which honestly, we'll see. Yeah.
It's a tough situation there in New Jersey. So we'll see how that recovers. Shifting gears to a nowhere near as tough situation, and another organization we had somebody on from. That's a theme here in the Frontier League. But the New York Boulders are up 54 wins last year. TJ Stanton back year 4. I like this roster a lot, to be honest with you. I have them around a 56 win or so number. I like that a lot. Tucker Nathan's back. Austin Dennis I like. Dylan Smith I like. Chris Kwitzer I like. Joe DeLuca I like. Alex Mack I like. I like a lot of the bullpen pieces, really, to be honest with you. Zach Schneider's another one.
And me both. Yeah.
Yeah. David Vinsky, I think, is a really nice bat. Alfredo Marte, I think, is a really nice addition there. Colin Easterwood, I think, has some good innings still left in him. Same thing with Aaron Dona. And Peyton Isaacson, I think, is a low-key nice ad on the plate. A lot of names just threw out there, but I really do like a lot of guys.
Through my head a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at guys. If we're to see when we're talking, you know, what's going on behind the plate. I'm also I like Joe DeLuca a lot.
True. They got some catching depth now.
Yeah,
and Jimmy Thompson's not bad either.
Yeah, you're right, and that's actually kind of weird. Actually, now I'm looking at how much depth they have there, but that's fine.
Stupid. They had 1 DHs, and there you go. You solved the problem.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm just looking at how many guys they returned last year who did damage. I mean, like, obviously, Kiblehan, Nathan's, Chris Quitzer's another one, 6 out, Tom Walraven. Yeah. That's just on the offensive side. I think their lineup and lineup depth is solid, and they didn't backslide at all, which is huge, you know, not immediately losing pieces as you try to build it. I was wondering more your thoughts on the pitching side, though, because that was the one where I start to go like, all right, well, you start to get into if this guy delivers and this guy does what we think he can, then maybe type of thing.
Here's the thing. So, like, the bullpen is more where I'm about here. Like, Dylan Smith, I really like him as a bullpen arm.
Right.
I really like Zach Schneider in that regard. Alex Mack, I got to refresh my memory on how he was used real quick, because I do remember him. I want to say he's more of a swing guy, where he did a little bit of both. But
he mostly started though.
Mostly started, okay. But still not that many innings though.
Short starts, yeah. Notable.
Yeah, he's kind of he's more of a starter, I suppose, when you look across the board here. So I do like him. I think really where my issues start to form up is I don't love the starting pitching depth. There's nothing really over there. I think the bullpen's really good. When we talked to Kevin too, I mean, he explicitly said stars are tougher to find. So, like, I understand it. And you take the better pitchers that you can get, but like, man, it's not like Aaron Don's a great example. He started 3 games last year, but he's like really effective bullpen piece. Like every year they seemingly have 3 or 4 guys that are sub 3 ERA guys out of the bullpen, which is great. But you still need guys to throw 4 or 5 innings bare minimum.
You need that inning to be relevant.
Yeah.
Which it might not be by the time they get to you.
So that's the thing.
And they didn't do a good job. I mean, I felt like they had a base last year when it comes to guys like, Sosa, Munoz, who's not back.
Yeah, I think he may have aged
Munoz and Lane. Nah, because he was younger. But they were all 24, 26.
Ryan Munoz, right?
Yeah, well, they were all sitting like mid-5 ERA, which
Sosa was upper 5, but yeah,
which isn't what you're going to lead with. But like they were all young enough where they could have developed a little bit more. I felt like, and I don't know, just to not have them back. I mean, maybe it was a choice of the team that they just didn't feel like there was room for growth there, but I don't know. I feel like they're continuing to step forward on the offensive side while like stepping backwards on the defensive side, and that's gonna be really tough.
I do wonder to a certain extent here. Also, I like Pedro Martinez Jr. That's like great player name, but I do wonder a bit because the ballpark itself, with the short porches, can lead more batter friendly. Obviously, they have the cavern out in center, but I do wonder to a certain extent, do you make the decision like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and worry less about stars that are going to get hit around here? Because you assume if we get to the 6th inning and it's like a 4-5 game, a 6-7 game, if we have a bullpen that can shut it down, then our bats can keep going and we can beat them almost through exertion.
Yeah, I could see it.
I'm not sure if I love that strategy, but it is one.
Actually being chosen, but I wouldn't go that route.
Yeah. It just seems like such a risky play that it's just not worth doing. But
yeah,
if you can't get the starting pitching, it's an option. So
yeah, I'm just thinking it through. I'm thinking how they can construct this, looking at the arms they currently have, a lot of fresh faces, a lot of young guys who like, again, and young guys where maybe they are starters, but it's a lot to put a large quantity of games, like 30 plus games a year, in the hands of guys in their first pro season.
Fair. Let's keep it moving though. Let's go to Ottawa, because this is a team I'm really interested to hear what you're thinking on.
Okay.
Because I can see it going either way. Bobby Brown, 3rd-year, 100 team last year, 48 and 48. There's guys I like: AJ Wright, Jake Sanford, Tyler Jordan, and Victor Cerny are all guys. Last Rivera too. But there's also like, I don't love the roster either. It just lacks somewhere.
Yeah. It's an example of how you can build a solid roster without building a dangerous roster. Is that
yes?
Follow? There's it's one where you're like, oh, like I see how you're going to take 2 out of 3 from, easily 8 out of the 16 teams in this league every time you play them. However, I don't see how you're going to possibly take 2 out of 3 from the top 4 or 5, maybe 6 teams in the division or in the league rather. So just generally speaking, I haven't eyeballed that and said that, that's exactly where they fall, but that's kind of where my head's at. So maybe that's what you're feeling there.
Yeah, I have them somewhere between 49 and 52 wins. I think they're an above average team, but I just don't see them winning a lot of series against, like, say, New York and Quebec. But I don't see them losing many series against, like, New Jersey and New England that they're going to get a lot of.
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of throw this prediction out here, and it very well could bite me in the ass.
Okay.
But I feel like this team is going to wind up being the fool's gold team for us this year down the playoff stretch, seeing as it's in division play through the stretch. I believe it's from August on. I think this could be that team because I'm looking at their August schedule. We're going to ignore the last game of the series against Three Rivers, but they go to Quebec, 3 against New England, 3 against Sussex. Then they go to New York for 3, go to Quebec for 3, come back home for 3 against Sussex before going back to Tri-City for 3. and then they end the season 6-game homestand against New York and then Quebec. Obviously, the Quebec and New York games on the surface, I don't love it, but we haven't gotten to Sussex yet. We'll talk about them, but I could see them taking games from Sussex. Depending on the situation, Tri-City too. I'm seeing them take games from Tri-City. But depending on the situation Quebec and New York find themselves in, if they're getting into that, okay, we have our spot locked up and we're pretty much locked into where we're going to play. Maybe we don't push our guys. Maybe we start giving those younger guys that haven't thrown more than 10 innings this whole year some innings. I can see a situation where it's like, okay, they're starting to come on stronger than we think, but they're not actually fighting for that last spot,
Maybe. I do see how that could end up being the situation they find themselves in. I think they are a good team. I think they're returning talent. I think they're returning some starters. Not bringing back a set of Stubbs is obviously a headache, but other than that, they are bringing. I don't know. I always think of Brian Pena being a little bit more of an issue for batters than he actually was. But I mean, Grant Larson's a good rotation piece.
Yeah.
Actually, come to think of it, I mean,
I'm a little weary of having a lot of guys that may need some visas too. That could be a headache. I'm seeing a decent amount of that here.
No, that's a fair point that I sometimes don't think of with them. I would say they've done a much better job on the pitching side, sort of keeping and back feeding some talent in, I think. Christian Barrow is a guy who jumped out as somebody who, depending on what he's bringing to the table, he could be pretty good. Laz Rivera is an interesting ad, at least.
Yeah, he's a guy I'm curious
on the
about.
offensive side, kind of like, I'm sorry, God, I keep flipping offensive and defense in my head because my one screen has them in one order and defense has them in the other. So I just throw a word in and go. So I feel I'm more interested in their potential offensively for that. I start to worry when the pitchers that you're seeing to like backfill talent on a team like that are guys that, don't have any pro experience or have, like Netherlands pro experience, like Scott Prinz does. I mean, interesting, but I'm also like, okay.
What about Ernesto there? Erasmo.
Erasmo. Okay.
Erasmo. Yeah, I screwed that up.
I think he's the most solid bullpen option for sure, right?
Yeah, 29. So wait, he's got to be veteran, no? There's some guys here. I'm curious to see how this is going to work out.
Some wiggle room on that. Hold on, let me see.
Because you got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, he's been around a while.
Okay, no, they do have 4. They have 4. Although, was it dropping from 4 to 3, or they still have 4 for the veteran spot? Because that could be a problem between Ibarra, Rivera, Pinellas.
Nothing wrong with a trade piece, though.
Fair. And then Jordan.
Better start learning English, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Not that he's doing. I know they speak English in Ottawa. It's just funnier that way. Shut up.
I chuckled.
No, you didn't. Not with enough genuine joy. For me, they haven't done enough. I'm trying to find the best way to phrase this, I guess.
They haven't kept pace?
Yeah. Yes. But they kind of have, because some of the teams around them have fallen off pretty hard. So that's the weird one. I'm like, I don't think they've kept pace with the big dogs, but I think they're still possibly collecting a higher win total because of just things going around them.
I could see that. Yeah, where it feels like they've fallen behind the best of this league, but they also kept ahead of the bottom part.
Okay, yes. I think
they're not bad enough to be bad, but they're not good enough to be good.
Yeah, they're in the middle there. I mean, I had them as like 4th or 5th in the division, which I think is about right.
I have them. Actually, I gotta tell you in a second here. 1, 2 teams, 3 teams ahead of them. Yeah, about 3 teams ahead of them. So I'm at 4 or 5.
Okay.
Speaking of one of those teams that's ahead of them, Quebec. This is where people get annoyed at us, but hey,
That's fine. Well, we can blitz through this one. I mean,
yeah.
Because it's more the same.
1635 last year. Scalabrini's back. Love everything about it. I expect them to be a playoff team. 55, 56 wins.
Yeah, I had them a little more to the good on wins. I had them closer to the 60 mark.
Fair.
So far, I just think the major losses they've seen have been sort of backfilled okay. They've got a good development plan, a lot of their guys.
This is another case of manager helps out a lot here. Where it's just like, I have full confidence in him. Also, I like Kyle Kroll. I like Lacroix. I like LeBrew. I like Gideon. I like Profar. I like TJD. I love a lot of this roster because it feels like there's a lot coming back and
the arms are still young too, for the most part. Yeah. So I agree. I'm kind of trying to do the favor of not talking them to death on this one through.
Yeah.
But you're grabbing all the guys I'm thinking about too, all the ones that the projections like as well. They are
Adonis back too. That could be helpful.
Yeah. Say
Fuentes too. He's a solid guy. I'm just grabbing everybody.
Yeah, at this point.
Not passing the salt today.
The returners, like bringing back Crowell and
Matthew Boros is a big boy, dude. He's 6'5", 220.
Yeah. I'm just looking. Basically, Gloud is the only one I'm really seeing missing from last year's core. And that core was plenty good and a headache to deal with. So, and when their main competition, which was the Jackals, has fallen off, it's like, what are we doing? They have to be the favorite to win the division, and we'll go from there, right?
Yeah. My God, they got 20-year-olds.
I'm trying not to be lazy with this, but I'm also like, good Lord, because they have the wiggle room to do that because they can find good 20-year-olds, but also they have such a pre-existing depth. Man.
Yeah, this team's. I'm still rooting for Thibaut Marcardier to make the roster just because I want to keep saying his name.
That's fair. I can appreciate that.
Just a fun name to say. Okay, you now have fun saying Thibaut Marcardier. Especially you put that little French Canadian accent on it. Yeah. He feels like he should be closing out a big game.
for Quebec.
Naturally. Is there any other kind of game?
Fair enough. Yeah, that's about right.
So, let's go a little bit. Let's head back south of the border for a hot minute, back to Tri-State with the Sussex County Minor, 55-40 this past season. Chris Wedger will return as manager for his second stint. There's pieces, but as a unit, I'm a little skeptical. I think they could be a wild card team again. I don't love their odds in a wild card game again, but I think there's pieces. I just realized this is 22-23, so take back a lot of what I just said because we don't have a Sussex roster.
Yeah, so
I don't care. This team just went ahead and
all right. I can dive a little bit in, but I can't really dive in too far because I don't know. I can only go off of what I know from the transaction sheet, which is frustrating. I'll maybe let it go. We can revisit at some point here.
Yeah.
I'll follow your lead. Again, your pod.
If you have any immediate thought on them, go for it. But otherwise, just leave them as is. We'll come back to them as a later date when we have a roster.
Well, my go-to, I expect them to win more games than they did, honestly. But that's more, again, from what's going on around them. Yeah. I think so. I think they could win 50
team.
Well, I was eyeing 57, 58. But I was thinking, because that's more about the competition around them. And I do think, the team is generally heading in the direction of improvement. And I do expect that to continue, but we'll see.
Here's the thing.
Do we have confirmation?
Here's the thing. This is going to be the team that makes the playoffs, and they don't deserve it, but they do that they're going to make it. Here's why. Here's their August. Again, ignoring the one game left over from the Quebec series. Washington, New York, Ottawa, New Jersey, New England, Ottawa, New England, Three Rivers, Tri-City.
Yeah. That's one way to
Congrats,
wrap
boys. You took advantage. Honestly, I'm looking at July too, and New Jersey, followed by Tri-City, Lake Erie, New York, All-Star break, Ottawa, New England, then Florence, then Quebec. These boys cheese the schedule. I'm sorry. Like, look at the whole thing. Like, here's the thing. This is going off the natural assumption, of course, that Three Rivers, Tri-City, and New Jersey and New England are not particularly good teams. But I'm starting to come around to your point here because their toughest series outside the Boulder series are Quebec and a 3-game set against Evansville.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I already see the fraud narrative that I'm building in my head. I'm just seeing it coming now.
Yeah, it'll be one of those ones where we're like, well, they have this record, but this is their record against other playoff teams type of conversation. So I think, I mean, I have them as the second or probably number 2 team in the division to start the year.
My God, I see it now. Rockland pulls it out, gets the first in the division barely. Quebec pile drives this team through the table in a wild card game. And then just leaves the bus, in Sussex to go up to Rockland and dispatch them. I want to say 3 because I think New York's good enough to win a game. But it's also Quebec we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't be disappointed with whoever makes the final in that case. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Quebec because I believe in them. But you know who I don't believe in? I don't believe in Tri-City. We're going to say that playoff tangent. Greg Taggart comes into town for his first year. Lamar Briggs, Ian Walters, Josh Vincent. That's all I got on this team. 39.5 wins. I may be generous. I may be harsh. That's where I'm at. I love the work off the field, though.
Let's see, where did I land on them, at least for the first pass here? I landed a little bit more generously.
Here's the thing. Like, if you get, Campos back, and you get Baez back, and Ernst back, I can start to come around on that.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as their list as inactive right now, I got to see them back first. I'll give you Kenny Oyama and Alex Olin, too. I think they could be somewhat interesting. Maybe Hallmark.
I sat them around 46, just below 500. I think a lot of that comes from
too.
Because I'm looking at their record from last year. They had 55 wins, so they're going to lose less. They're going to lose more than that. So obviously their win total drops down. But then they're going to win more games against the Jackals than they did last year. So they're going to get a few back there. Win a few more against. Well, I guess they lose the Empire State wins. That's part of the equation there too.
Don't have enough yet.
It does complicate it. Maybe I am a game or 2 ahead, but again, as I said, I need to take a closer look. But that is. It doesn't feel good. The vibe isn't spectacular.
I want to look at this schedule real quick. They'll win their opening series. They're playing Windy City. That was burn on them, but oh well.
Jesus.
Schaumburg to Washington to Ottawa to Quebec to Ottawa, New England. They could get out of May decent.
Okay. That's almost a thing.
June... New England, New Jersey, New York. Okay, that's not terrible. Evansville, Three Rivers, not terrible. Quebec to Sussex could get a little rough. Three Rivers to Sussex could get a little rough. Quebec, Sussex, New England, New Jersey, All-Star, Quebec, Three Rivers, Ottawa, New England. New York, Three River, New York, New England, New York. Oh, I guess it's going to beat them up all that New York. New Jersey, Ottawa, New Jersey, Sussex, and it's the problem is Three Rivers in New England and New Jersey are just such wild cards in this, where it's like, how bad are you compared to them?
Exactly, and that's what is really that's throwing kind of everything too. That's going to be part of the revisit on this projection because I'm like, I know I need to assess fully what the hell is going on here.
See, if I to just go back to the point we made throughout the shows today. When we say the West is deeper, it's hard to figure out who's the playoff team, and the teams that aren't in are going to be better than whoever misses in the East. In the East, it feels like a pretender is getting in no matter what. And realistically, the division championship should be New York and Quebec. And I hate to do the NBA way of this, which is just, can we just skip to it? Can we skip to the good part and just see that? Can we make that a 7-game set instead of watching a wild card game instead?
I'm not going to go that far.
I'm willing to go that far. I don't have a lot of faith in this division. There's a lot of people I like with some of these orgs, and a lot of guys I want to see do well. But overall, as a product, I don't have a lot of faith in a lot of these teams to perform.
I mean, I agree. I like the chaos. That's where I hang on.
Fair.
I mean,
but you'll have to watch that chaos on Flow Sports for $30 a month.
I feel like we have a team left.
Yes, let's get to it because we're about to go off the rails. Three Rivers, last team, 38-win team last year, 57 losses. Matt Roush in his 4th year. I kind of like this team. I think they're about a 500 team. A 47.5 was the number I had. Osman Gutierrez, I like. Tucker Smith, I like. Willie Estrada, I like. Dalton Combs, I really like. Gladeau, I like. Steve Brown, I like. Dadson, I like. And LP Peltier, I like. I'm going to hope to God I got a good roster on that.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, because otherwise I'll be very annoyed. Again, the teams are not updating their rosters a week before the season. But I believe it's up to date. So we're going to go on hopes and prayers.
I've got about a 43 on them. So there's multiple thoughts going. I do think it's an improved team. I think they're going the right way. But I also like the fact that this, like, multiple times now they've said, like, we're going to be better. Like, they're the weird, like, this is not acceptable type of thing going on last year.
The current headline on the website cut you off
exactly
is
my thoughts.
The Eagles are confident in being more competitive in 24. I don't know what to make of that. I like the confidence, but I also feel like we shouldn't have to don't play that.
It shouldn't need to be a headline.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, we'll see. I take it as a positive, but I take it as enough of a negative where I'm not bumping them up that far. I would say this is probably the first. It feels like the first year multiple improvements, though, so I'll take it from there. This is one where I have barely gotten into, like, the individuals of it, so that's why I can't really name too many names about who I've been looking at, but they're my, like, next or second to next team that I'm digging into.
Let me throw you a little bit of a curveball here.
Okay.
Come, like, say, October, if we were to update these coaching staff grades, which were really manager grades, does Matt Roush improve from a D+?
Yeah, probably.
How far of an improvement?
I could get up. When are we doing this? When, hypothetically?
Assuming October.
Okay.
A couple weeks after the season ends.
Yeah, I think it could go up a whole letter grade.
So C+ would be like what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? What do you think?
I would agree with that. I think it could be a CC+ too. Possibly if they really go hot here and do well, because keep in mind, there's a lot of some free win days on this slate.
Yeah.
If he takes advantage of that and kind of, like, depending on what Sussex winds up being, slithers into a playoff spot, I could see myself being persuaded to go B-.
Okay, yeah. If we're talking playoff spot, I don't know if they're going to go that far.
I don't think they will. I think they're going to be about 500 team, which I think improving by 10 wins is a huge plus, even given the situation as it stands.
Right. I'm 100% with you there.
So,
I wish I had more. Again, if I left your team of choice lacking, check out what I got coming this week. I'll have a more in-depth analysis, but it kind of caught me in a weird spot where I'm Really just happy to not be throwing up currently. So, that tends to
The simple
get
things
things
in life.
spiraling a little bit. Do love not throwing up.
So really, if Ryan doesn't like your team, you should take it personal.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Just be mad about it. It's okay.
Explicitly.
So
Especially if you're
dead
one of the few
inside.
guys he called out by name. That's personal.
Damn. Yeah.
Says he's
No,
for the
it's on me.
boys and then does
I'll own
that.
I'll own it. That's fine. It's on me. Try not to be that guy. Occasionally I'll be that guy. It's all right.
He's telling you it's time. Get that CPA license. Get that real
Jesus.
estate license. It's
No
time.
one said that. Fight the real estate license while you can. What do you think here? I got Schaumburg, Evansville, and Gateway in the South Division playoffs.
South Division.
The West. Sorry. Good Lord, I'm so tired. I got Schaumburg coming out of the West. I got Quebec. I got New York. I got Sussex in the playoffs in the East. I got Quebec coming out of there, and I think I got Quebec. It's hard to take anybody over Quebec, but I mean, I know they've
just done so much.
Evansville. So what do I know?
I got Joliet over Schaumburg in the wild card, and New York over Sussex in the wild card.
Okay.
Then Division Series, I have Gateway over Joliet, and then Quebec over New York, and then I got Quebec over Gateway.
Okay, that works.
Yeah,
Okay.
Quebec. Here's the thing: even if on paper, I like a couple teams better than them, 2 in the West, 1 in the East, by the way. I still believe in that team enough to where when it matters, they win. And like the stat that gets me is they have more championships than non-winning seasons. And that's for a 25-year-old team, that's crazy to me.
I mean, I go back to every team in Indie Ball, especially in Frontier League, takes losses during the year for one reason or another. And I can look at these rosters and feel that a lot of them are close, but I feel that none of them are close to as good at and have a proven track record of maintaining a successful run of play while losing pieces the way Quebec does.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, they just turn it on so quick.
Yeah. And especially with a slightly easier path through the division this year, that will probably give them more time to sort of sort things out and play around to figure out what they like.
Yeah. To undercut the last half hour here, would you be shocked if any team, more so in the East, but we can conclude the West for the hell of it, got to that 7-0 number? Be only 26 losses on the year.
Yeah, I'd be shocked.
Okay.
I don't think it's like that.
What do you think is the highest realistic win total we could see?
67.
Okay, that's interesting. I was going to say 68, but I wouldn't be stunned at 70 if things go a certain way. If you say New England, New Jersey, Tri-City, and Three Rivers are all really that bad, which I don't think will be the case. It'd be really surprising me if that was the case. If those 4 are really that bad and Sussex winds up being extremely mid, there's a pathway where either New York or Quebec could do it just because, you have 4 or 5 tough series the whole season? Outside of 15 games and whatever you have against the West, it's like, it's open boys.
Yeah. I still think, I mean, they had Empire State last year, and it wasn't that extreme. Yeah.
Well, what they do
the high is 62. The high was 62 in 2022.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard. It really is hard to get to that 70. That's why when Kansas City did it a couple years ago, it was damn impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do kind of I never want to rule anything out, but it would take the perfect storm for it to happen.
Agreed.
So that's all we got for the Frontier League. Any case, next week we're going to have the American Association. I'd imagine that's going to be kind of the highlight of the episode. We'll probably have a little bit of a review from the opening day in a couple of leagues, and we'll probably have some more Atlantic League talk. And who knows, maybe Oakland will put something else out that we can ridicule. Who knows?
Jeez.
Well, I'm sure the 5 baller fans that still listen to this show
Yeah, they've written us off.
Unless probably thrilled with us.
I feel bad. Like I don't know. I hate when people think I'm just jumping on their team to jump on their team. I swear it's not that, yo. I don't know.
I feel like at this point it should be pretty well noted. If we're talking about a team in a negative way or non-positive way, it's not a personal thing. It's just that's the opinion on it. I think we've made it very clear that we're going to give you our opinion on the matter.
Yeah,
and that's all there is to it. When you do well, you get the Quebec treatment. When you do poorly, you get the pick your list of team treatment.
Yeah.
And it's possible to do the 180 on it. I mean, look at Gastonia.
No, you're right. They've done the 180 and then back and then back and then back.
Yeah, I mean, even better, NOCO from last year. Even better, for example.
Right. Yeah, I was ready for that to be the plot line of the year over there. And nope, they were fine. Exactly. Now they're being complimented.
Exactly. So, obviously, you have stuff you're putting out soon. So,
yes.
Tell people where they can find it.
On Indie Ball Nation, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. I have a TikTok, but it's got to kind of fit within the parameters of what's going on over there. So
it's getting banned soon anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, does it? Which is whatever. Fine by me. Dead inside. I work in social media all day. I don't really need it in my life at night. I'll just scream into the void.
Indie Ball Pod, Twitter, Indie Ball Report, everywhere else. And yeah, we're putting out more Instagram posts and some Twitter posts, and that's hopefully going to continue. I want to try making some shorter videos too. I'm cooking the Chicago Dogs interview, or not interview, the whole saga video. I'm working on that right now. Mm-hmm. Don't want to put it out until it's perfect. Well, nothing's ever perfect, but until it's good as I can get it, right? I don't want to half-ass it, so I want to take my time and make it right. Even if it starts to bleed into the season, which I wanted to avoid, but you can't always get what you want. So I'm trying to, I think 4 or 5 minute long videos will be a lot easier for me to edit, film, and get everything taken care of. So we'll see where it goes, and we'll see how it all shakes out. So keep in mind for that. And also doing a moment of the week thing too. You have a moment you want to send it to me. One of the platforms I just listed. And we'll see what we can do with it. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Sick.
Yep. So we'll end this one off as we end all of them off. Until next time, don't forget to play ball.